Chapter 3340. To express my gratitude, regardless of the outcome of this treatment, I will give you this little toy, the silver centipede, as a gift. You only need to use your divine sense to control the core artifact embedded in the silver centipede, and you can give it some simple commands. In addition to daily use, this silver centipede can also provide you with more than 5 times of defense, and its defense can block a single attack from a peak Earth creation expert. Mu Yan did not hear what Steward Wu said after that, because her ears were already filled with the excited cries of a few little fellows. If not for the current situation, the little fellows would have immediately grabbed the silver centipede outside and played with it. Crack! A shattering sound was heard. Mu Yan turns her head to look and sees that Wen Jian has crushed the silver ball floating in front of him. He revealed an arrogant and disdainful smile. This old man came all the way to the Sacred Heaven Alliance, not for a little toy like the silver centipede. What this old man wants is your Sacred Heaven Alliance's treasure, the 9th Heaven Thunderblade. Steward Wu's expression changed, his brows darkening. Zhang Heng and the others behind him also had ugly expressions, and could not help but say, Dr. Wen, are you mistaken? The condition of our Sacred Heaven Alliance seeking a doctor is the artifact that the Alliance Master personally refined after recovering, not the 9th Heaven Thunderblade. Ha! In this world, besides me, who can cure Xiang Yunzhou's illness? Wen Jian looked disdainfully at Steward Wu and the others, his face full of contempt. Do you think that the Sacred Heaven Alliance is qualified to negotiate with me? Without me, who else can you rely on? On this group of trash. Steward Wu and the others had ugly expressions when they heard this. Even He Kaizu and the others' faces darkened. Especially the young Beitang Feilu, who immediately abandoned the silver centipede and said angrily, Dr. Wen, we have always been respectful to you because we respect you as an elder, but don't go too far. Are you the only powerful doctor in this world, Wen Jian? Wen Jian turned to look at Beitang Feilu, then at He Kaizu and Han Song, raising his brows. Why are you all looking at me like this? Do you really think that you can beat me in medical skills? He Kaizu's face darkened as he said coldly, there is no difference in medical skills, it only depends on whether you can relieve the patient's pain. Dr. Wen, since you are the best doctor of Floating Island, you should know the principle of a doctor's benevolence. That's right. Han Song's voice was especially loud. When he shouted, one could hear the echoes. You haven't even seen Alliance leader Xiang's illness before and you dare to boast so shamelessly. Isn't this a bit too arrogant? Mu Yan didn't say anything. Instead, she stood beside He Kaizu and the others, expressing her attitude. Her expression was calm, and she was not as angry as the others. However, her eyes were staring deeply at Wen Jian, and the corners of her lips curled into a cold smile. Was this the person who drugged Ingmei's brother with the unknown drug that would make him addicted? Ha! Ingmei's revenge, should he help her get back some interest at the same time? He Kaizu saw that the other 3 doctors are on his side and felt much more confident. He turned his head to look at Steward Wu and asked in a clear voice, where is Alliance leader Xiang? His illness cannot be delayed. I don't think there's any need to waste time here. Let's go take a look at Chief Xiang's condition first. Steward Wu showed gratitude and extended his hand. This way please, the silver centipede will also show you the way. Chapter 3341. Are you qualified to touch this old man's patients? Just then, Wen Jian's sneer interrupted Steward Wu's words. Immediately after, 4 rays of light flew out from Wen Jian's hands, heading straight for Mayan's group. Ah! What's that? Wen Jian, what are you doing? Mayan's reaction was extremely fast, and in the blink of an eye, she had already silently caught the flying thing. A heart-wrenching pain came from her palm. Something was desperately trying to drill into her skin, follow her meridians, and invade her lungs. Mayan's eyes turned cold, and the corners of her mouth faintly hooked up. Goo! It's a goo! Beitang Feilu's complexion was ashen. She quickly took out a crimson awl and pierced several acupoints on her body. She fiercely glared at Wen Jian, gnashing her teeth. Wen Jian, we met by chance, and there is no enmity between us. How dare you poison us? If she wasn't originally a female doctor proficient in witchcraft, the goo would have entered her body by now. Hikaizu and Han Song were obviously not so lucky, and had already fallen to the ground with a scream. Everyone's complexion was deathly pale, and their bodies were curled up and trembling violently. Painful groans came from their mouths. Beitang Feilu looked at the miserable state of the two, and her heart was filled with lingering fear. Fortunately, the goo was ineffective against her. But she couldn't deal with Wen Jian alone. She had to save Hikaizu and Han Song first. Thinking like this, Beitang Feilu once again took out a crimson awl and walked towards Hikaizu. Wen Jian watched this scene from the side. Not only did she not panic, she even revealed a mocking smile. The next moment, Beitang Feilu, who had just taken 2 steps, suddenly screamed and fell to her knees. On her fair arm, there was a small bulge that was moving rapidly towards her heart. How could this be? How could this be? I clearly had the goo under control. Beitang Feilu completely panicked, screaming to force the goo out of her body. But the more she used spiritual power, the faster the goo moved through her meridians. Not long after, she fell to the ground like Hikaizu and Han Song, twitching and moaning in pain. Steward Wu said angrily, Dr. Wen, what are you doing? Wen Jian sneered, his expression arrogant and disdainful. Hee, weren't these people clamoring to compete with this old man in medical skills? Am I not giving them a chance? Looking at Hikaizu and the other 2 screaming on the ground, then looking at Mu Yen, who was sitting on the side. Although she didn't make any sound, her head was lowered, and her expression couldn't be seen clearly. Wen Jian could not help but laugh out loud. You can't even cure the poison that I released. With your medical skills, you are not even worthy of carrying my shoes. When he finished, he looked at Wu Qin and the rest. Steward Wu, now you should know who to rely on to cure Alliance Chief Xiang's illness, right? What are you standing there for? Hurry up and lead the way. Steward Wu's face darkened when he saw Wen Jian's smug look. They dared to make a move in the territory of the Sacred Heaven Alliance. This Wen Jian was too arrogant. He was looking down on the Sacred Heaven Alliance. Moreover, the 9th Heaven Thunder Saber was a sacred object passed down from generation to generation in the Sacred Heaven Alliance. Where did Wen Jian get the face to ask for this thing? Steward Wu was furious, but he couldn't let it out. The Alliance Chief. The Alliance Chief was already in danger. Chapter 33-42. On the floating island, perhaps only Steward Wu can cure him. Steward Wu coldly says, please cure them of the goo poison, Dr. Wen. These people are all honored guests invited by my Sacred Heaven Alliance, don't worry. They won't die for a while. Wen Jian sneers, after I've treated Alliance Master Xiang and obtained the 9 Heavens Thunderblade, this old man will naturally spare their lowly lives. Steward Wu takes a deep breath, then please follow me to see the Alliance Master, Dr. Wen. Wen Jian laughs 3 times, brushes his clothes, and is about to follow. However, at this moment, a light and sweet-sounding female voice comes from behind him. Isn't it a medical competition? It's not over yet, why is Dr. Wen leaving? Wen Jian suddenly turns his head. Looking at the smiling girl under the illumination of the crystal, he reveals an incredulous expression. You weren't poisoned by my goo. Oh. So the thing that Dr. Wen just sent was a goo poison. I'm sorry, I didn't notice it. Mayan beckons with her hand, and a chubby, soft, white-furred rabbit appears in her arms, its mouth flattening as it eats something, because it's already been eaten by my family's summoned beast. What a joke. That's the snake goo, one of the top 10 poisons of the floating island. Even if a commander-leveled summoned beast eats it, it will also die. How can a mere rabbit that isn't even an elite level not die after swallowing the snake goo? Wen Jian roars, and another ray of light flies out from his hand. Dr. June, be careful. Hing shouts, and the sword in his hand is already unsheathed. However, the next moment, a scene that makes everyone dumbfounded happens. They see that the fat rabbit that is lazily lying in Mayan's arms, seemingly too lazy to even move, suddenly leaps up, catching the flying snake goo in the air, and swallows it into its small mouth. Guji, guji. It's unknown whether it's chewing or digesting, but the sound echoes in the spacious hall. It's particularly strange. Burp. After the fat rabbit finishes eating, it burps and wags its short tail at Mu Yen. Mu Yen looked at Wen Jian with a smile. Dr. Wen, it seems that your snake voodoo tastes good. My fat rabbit is a picky eater. It's not easy to find something to his liking. Why don't you send some more? Wen Jian was so angry that her whole body was trembling. Damn it! How could there be such a summoned beast? Snake goo, that was an extremely poisonous snake goo. How could he be fine after swallowing it? Steward Wu and the others were also dumbfounded. Little girl, don't be too arrogant. Wen Jian gritted her teeth. So what if you have a summoned beast that can eat the snake goo? Can this prove your medical skills? Mayan looks up at him like she's looking at an idiot. Did I say that the fat rabbit was proving my medical skills? The one who wants to prove his medical skills is naturally. Before she could finish, she saw Hikaizu, Han Song, and Beitang Feiluk slowly crawl up from the ground one by one. Many thanks for Dr. June's life-saving grace. Hikaizu and Han Song deeply bow towards Mayan, their faces full of gratitude. Beitang Feilu, who is also a woman, intimately leans over to Mayan's side, and with a face full of lingering fear, she says, I thought I was dead for sure. Dr. June, fortunately we have you. Otherwise, even if we could survive, we would definitely be humiliated by that unscrupulous poison doctor. Chapter 33-43. Mu Yen smiled casually, then looked at the shocked Wen Jian. Dr. Wen, why aren't you speaking? Didn't you say that you want to compete in medical skills? How does Dr. Wen want to compete? Wen Jian's face turned green and white, staring at Mu Yen in bewilderment. This little girl of unknown origin. She was the one he looked down on the most in the beginning. A waste that hadn't even reached the profound life realm. He didn't know what the Sacred Heaven Alliance was thinking, to find such a trash to treat Xiang Yunzhou. However, the truth slapped him hard in the face. She actually cured the snake goo. But how did she cure it? He didn't even see how the little girl did it. Cough, cough, Steward Wu walked down the stairs with a smile on his face. He respectfully bowed to Mu Yen, then said in a clear voice, Doctors, the Alliance Master has been waiting for a long time, please follow me in. Although Wen Jian was irritating, but his medical skills were superb. For the sake of the Alliance Master's life, Steward Wu didn't want Mu Yen to go against him at this moment. Mu Yen looked at Wen Jian with a faint smile, then turned to follow Steward Wu. It's so cold. Steward Wu, where is Alliance Master Xiang? On the long walkway, there were illumination stones placed every few meters on the walls on both sides. But at this time, these stones were covered in a thick layer of frost, causing the entire walkway to be dark. Everyone present was a cultivator. Apart from Mu Yen, who was at the peak of the mortal cultivation realm, the others were all above the profound life realm. But even so, everyone felt a bone-piercing chill penetrating their bodies as they walked on the long walkway. Beitang Feilu was the first one who couldn't take it anymore. Steward Wook showed an apologetic expression. Please forgive us, doctors. Our Alliance Master's illness is a bit special. Only in such an environment can he preserve his life. But, even so, he can't hold on much longer. What kind of illness is Alliance Master Xiang suffering from? Could it be that his meridians were injured by a fire attribute skill? Steward Wu, Dr. Beitang, you'll know in a while. Even Mu Yen couldn't help showing a curious expression. However, he doesn't seem to have heard her words. He lowers his eyes and his cold gaze sweeps over Mu Yen. The corner of his mouth hooks up into a strange smile. After an unknown period of time, the surrounding temperature became colder and colder. Yet, under such cold weather, Steward Wu warned everyone not to use any method to warm themselves. Otherwise, they would attract a terrifying disaster. Just when the few of them were almost unable to withstand the cold, the passage finally came to an end. A door covered in a thick layer of frost appeared in front of him. Steward Wu placed his trembling hand on the door and pushed with all his might. Creak! The layer of ice shattered, revealing the interior of the house. Everyone sucked in a cold breath. Hikaizu looked at Steward Wu in disbelief. That's Alliance Leader Xiang. A few years ago, Hikaizu had met Xiang Yunzhou once. At that time, the Alliance Master of the Sacred Heaven Alliance was still an elegant middle-aged man. Although there were already fine wrinkles on his face and some white hair on his temples, he gave people a feeling that he was handsome and high-spirited. Yes. Xiang Yunzhou was only in his early 80s, but he was already at the peak of the sea-splitting realm. With a long lifespan and a high position, how could he not be high-spirited? But could the person lying on the ice bed in the house still be considered human? At first glance, it was clearly a charred corpse. Chapter 33-44. Moreover, the corpse seemed to have been soaked in water, swelling up countless times. Even without getting close, they could smell a nauseating rancid smell. How could this be? Hikaizu murmured, how did Alliance Master Xiang become like this? Steward Wu stared blankly at the charred corpse in the ice room, as if recalling something. His body trembled uncontrollably. We don't know what happened either. Wu Chen still remembered that it happened more than a month ago. Because the day to repair the Heavenly Halberd was approaching, the Holy Heaven Alliance was on full alert and extremely nervous. Xiang Yunzhou was also full of anxiety. Because the repair of the Heavenly Halberd was originally the responsibility of the Holy Heaven Alliance's ancestor, Xiang Batian. But since a few years ago, Xiang Batian had left the Holy Heaven Alliance and had yet to return. Although Xiang Yunzhou had forged the Heavenly Halberd with his grandfather, he had never been in charge of it alone. And no mistakes could be allowed in this matter, otherwise the entire floating island would be buried. At that time, Steward Wu and the others were burning with anxiety. But just a month ago, Xiang Yunzhou's mood suddenly became extremely good after returning from the outside. The anxiety on his face had also turned into a confident and joyful expression. Steward Wu, after that day, Alliance Master went into seclusion. We all thought that Alliance Master had found a way to break through. Who knew that 3 days later, the seclusion chamber would suddenly explode, and Alliance Master, just like that, was completely charred, lying in the rubble, never to wake up again. His gaze turned to Mu Yen and the others, revealing a bitter smile. I won't hide it from you. Previously, it's not that our Holy Heaven Alliance's doctors didn't try to treat Alliance Master. But not only did it not heal, the skin and flesh on his hand were burnt. And this kind of burning was extremely painful, but medicine was ineffective. He could only wait for the pain to pass bit by bit. This kind of torture would last for a full 7 days. Hearing Steward Wu's description, Hikaizu and Beitang Feilu's expressions changed. Han Song, however, smiled lightly, looking at Alliance Master Xiang's illness. It should be fire poison invading his body. If it was any other illness, I might not be as good as the other doctors. But if it's fire poison, my summoned beast can give it a try. Steward Wu was overjoyed. The Sacred Heaven Alliance disciple who recommended Han Song was even more delighted. I've long heard that Dr. Han's summoned beast is a rare medical support type soul beast, the 100 Snow Sparrow. The 100 Snow Sparrow will definitely be able to restrain all poisons and living things in the world as long as it's fire attributed. With Dr. Han around, our alliance leader will definitely be saved. When Han Song heard this, he raised his chin proudly and muttered something. Soon, a palm-sized snow-white spiritual sparrow appeared in front of everyone. Almost as soon as the spirit sparrow appeared, the surrounding frost seemed to have met its nemesis as it cracked and fell to the ground. Han Song, who had just been unbearably cold, now straightened his back. His expression was calm, and he no longer shivered. He reached out to touch the spirit sparrow and whispered a few words in its ear. Then, he pointed at the charred corpse in the ice room. The spirit sparrow flapped its wings and was about to fly into the house. Suddenly, a hand reached out from the side and pressed down on Han Song's arm. This hand was slender and fair, with well-proportioned joints. It was beautiful as if it was carved out of fine jade. Han Song was stunned, then heard a pleasant voice in his ear. Please wait a moment. Chapter 33:45. Dr. June, what's the matter? Han Song looked at the girl who stopped him in surprise. Han Song was in a trance for a moment, and amazement flashed in his eyes. Mu Yen said lightly, let's first determine what disease leader Xiang has. Otherwise, your summoned beast may be injured. This was a kind reminder. But in Han Song's ears, it sounded like she was looking down on him. He remembered that under the corrosion of the Yin snake goo, his ugly appearance had been seen by the girl in front of him. Han Song's brows furrowed deeply, and his voice became a bit colder. Dr. June, this Han is truly grateful for saving my life just now. I'm really not good at detoxifying the Yin snake goo. In terms of medical skills, I may not be your opponent. But I have never failed in detoxifying fire poison. The Sacred Heavens Alliance disciple who recommended Han Song glanced at Zhang Heng, and couldn't help but laugh sarcastically. Dr. June, we know that your medical skills are superb, but there are specializations in this field. On this floating island, if Dr. Han claims to be number one in detoxifying fire poison, no one dares to claim to be second. Mu Yen raised her eyebrows, retracted her hand that was pressing down on Han Song, and smiled ambiguously. She had already reminded him. Since the other party didn't appreciate it and insisted on courting death, then forget it. Seeing Mu Yen obediently retreat, Han Song cheered up and used his divine sense to drive away the spirit sparrow. The spirit sparrow flapped its wings and flew towards the charred corpse in the ice room. Steward Wu and the others all held their breath. They watched the spirit sparrow land on top of the charred corpse without blinking. Its sharp beak lightly pecked the head of the charred corpse. A layer of frost instantly spread from the top of the head, gradually covering every inch of the charred corpse's skin. Everyone was overjoyed. It works. Dr. Han's snow sparrow is really the nemesis of all fire poisons. Han Song also smiled, and couldn't help glancing at Mu Yen proudly. However, the next moment, a piercing pain erupted from the depths of his sea of consciousness. Han Song let out a howl that was 100 times more painful than when he was hit by the Yin snake goo, and suddenly fell to the ground and kept rolling. Almost at the same time, a golden red flame sprang out of the charred corpse and wrapped around the spirit sparrow. The snow sparrow didn't even make a sound, and disappeared without a trace. There was dead silence. Even Mu Yen couldn't help but be greatly shocked. She could sense that the fire-attributed energy wrapped around the charred corpse was extremely powerful. It was not something that Han Song's snow sparrows could contend with. But even Mu Yen did not expect it to be so powerful. Han Song summoned Beast, the snow sparrow, was not seriously injured, but directly swallowed. In other words, from now on, Han Song was no longer a soul master, and could no longer be a beast soul doctor. Han Song, who slowly woke up from the pain, felt that the connection with the 100 sparrows of ice and snow had been completely broken in his sea of consciousness. His face was deathly pale. At this moment, he remembers Jun Mayan's obstruction, and the remorse in his heart surges like a tide. However, it was too late. It takes Beitang Feilu a long time to react. She staggers back a few steps and fearfully hides behind Mayan. She's actually more than 10 years older than Mayan. But at this moment, she was like a frightened little girl who only wanted to seek the protection of a powerful person. Hikaizu's face was also pale and his lips were trembling. After a while, he muttered, "Steward Wu, this. I'm afraid we can't cure Alliance Master Xiang's illness." Chapter 33-46. Beitang Feilu nodded repeatedly. How is this a treatment? He was clearly trying to bring a charred corpse back to life, and he even had to pay with his own life. Steward Wu said anxiously, "Dr. He, you're known as the Doctor Genius. How can there be an illness that you can't cure? At least go and take a look at our Alliance Master, right?" Hikaizu let out a long sigh, shook his head and said, "I've already tried to use my divine sense to probe Alliance leader Xiang's body, but as soon as my divine sense got close, it was swallowed by a scorching heat. If you get close to the treatment, I'm afraid that you won't end up any better than the doctors of the Sacred Heaven Alliance." "Then what about Dr. Jun?" Zhang Heng looks at Mayan hopefully. "Dr. Jun is a music doctor, he doesn't need to approach to treat." Beitang Feilu grabbed Mu Yan's hand and said angrily, "Do you think that there is no risk in being a doctor? Yu Yin's treatment relies entirely on her divine sense to touch the patient's body. Didn't you hear what Dr. He said? Divine sense will be devoured just like summoned beasts. Are you trying to kill Mayan?" Mu Yan slightly squints her eyes, looking at the charred corpse in the ice room thoughtfully. The glimmer of hope in Steward Wu and the others' eyes was extinguished bit by bit. At this moment, when Jian chuckled and slowly walked forward, "In the end, this old man still has to make a move." Steward Wu's spirit was shaken. He could no longer care about his disgust for Wen Liang. He asked excitedly, "Dr. Wen, do you have a way to cure our alliance leader?" Wen Jian glances arrogantly and disdainfully at everyone present, especially at Mu Yan, who had just caused him to lose face. "Didn't your Sacred Heaven Alliance want to flatter this little girl and think that my medical skills are only so-so? What? Now that you've realized that this little girl is useless, you want to turn around and beg this old man?" Steward Wu and the other 5 bowed and bowed to him. Some of them even slapped their own faces. They only hoped that Wen Jian would show mercy and save their alliance master's life. Wen Jian put his hands behind his back and casually spat out a few words, "Ninth Heaven Thunderblade." Steward Wu's face stiffened, and his eyes were filled with struggle. However, when he saw the alliance master lying in the ice room like a corpse, he gritted his teeth and said, "Men, go and get the Ninth Heaven Lightning Saber." "Steward Wu, that's the treasure of the Sacred Heaven Alliance, it's just an inanimate object. Could it be more important than the Alliance Master's life? Go get it. I will bear all the consequences." Soon, a small Cosmos box was carried into the cold basement. Even through the storage device, he could feel the powerful pressure and energy of the magic treasure inside. When Jian took the Cosmos box, his eyes full of greed and excitement. Got it. He really got it. The Imperial Tutor was right. This trip to the Sacred Heaven Alliance was a sure win for him. The next step was to complete the task entrusted by the Imperial Tutor, when Jian's eyes darkened as he strode towards the ice room. When Steward Woot saw him like this, they all heaved a sigh of relief. Mu Yan raises her eyebrows and follows them in. Mu Yan, what are you going to do? Beitang Feilu said anxiously, that fire poison is so powerful, if you were to touch it. Mu Yan smiled and patted her shoulder. Don't worry, I just want to see how Dr. Wen is going to save Chief Xiang. When Jian looked at her disdainfully, his eyes surging with a malicious light. However, he did not say anything. Instead, he quickly walked to the ice bed. A small bell cauldron suddenly appeared in his hand. Chapter 33:47. When Jian tossed the bell cauldron into the air, a buzzing sound instantly reverberated throughout the underground ice room. The bell cauldron also grew larger, emitting a faint yellow light that enveloped the charred corpse of below. Dr. Jun, you have to be careful. Seeing that when Jian's attention was on the bell cauldron, Hikaizu lowered his voice and said, Wen Jian is a very shrewd and vengeful person. He will not easily let off those who offend him. After leaving the Sacred Heavenly Alliance, you must be careful. Mayan nodded, showing a grateful expression. Thank you for the reminder, Dr. He. When she lowered her eyes, the corners of her mouth hooked up into a cold arc. It was still unknown who would easily let off who. However, what was this bell cauldron that Wen Jian took out? Why did it also give her a strange feeling? That is also a demon god tool, although it is only a substandard one. Qi Huang's voice rang in her ears. Mayan was startled. Demon god tool. She remembered that the Chaotic Tower and Bixia were both demon god tools. This bell cauldron was also one. Qi Huang, do you know what kind of fire poison alliance Master Xiang was afflicted with? Mayan frowned. I probed it with my divine sense just now. That fire attribute energy was extremely overbearing. Even my divine sense was almost bitten off by it. What kind of fire poison could be so powerful? Qi Huang hesitated for a moment, murmuring, this sage also feels that the energy fluctuation on this person is somewhat familiar, but I can't remember where I came into contact with it. As he spoke, the charred corpse that was originally lying on the sick bed slowly floated into the air. Getting closer and closer to the bell cauldron, and the yellow light emitted by the bell cauldron gradually became so dazzling that it was almost impossible to open one's eyes. Wisps of golden red flames seeped out from the charred corpse. I know. Qi Huang's voice suddenly sounded, startling Mayan. What do you know? Qi Huang snorted, this exalted one knows what that fire is. No wonder I felt that the smelly burnt smell was somewhat familiar. It turns out to be Golden Crow. Golden Crow. Qi Huang lay on the lawn of the space, curling his lips in boredom, a flame essence that is so lazy that it can fly. Little Phoenix flapped his wings happily and said, Chiu Chiu knows about the Golden Crow fire essence, it's very powerful. Only the Golden Crow fire can refine sacred ancestor level pills and true heaven bestowing holy artifacts. Mayan's eyes brightened, isn't that a good thing? Qi Huang rolled his eyes. Don't be silly. The Golden Crow is stupid and lazy, but it's not something that humans can control. That alliance leader Xiang Yunzhou must have a hole in his brain to want to directly absorb the Golden Crow fire essence. Fortunately, the lazy Golden Crow was sleeping and did not release even 1% of its fire elemental energy. That was why he could still breathe. But it can only last for another 3 days. Mu Yan frowned. Did Jian say that he can save Chief Xiang? Idiot. Dream on. Those that are parasitized by the golden crow are the same as the flame essence's prey. Only if they are alive will they, Chi Huang's voice suddenly paused. He straightened his body and stared at the bell cauldron that was emitting a yellow light. Chi Huang, what's wrong? So that's how it is. After a long while, Chi Huang spat out in a low voice, then revealed an evil smile. That smelly old man really isn't a good person. He doesn't want to save Xiang Yunzhou, but wants to use Xiang Yunzhou as a sacrifice to subdue the golden crow fire essence with this substandard demonic artifact. TSK. This can be a way to temporarily control the flame essence. Chapter 33-48. Mayan is startled, then her brows tightly wrinkle. Wen Jiyan really had guts. They dared to do such a thing in the territory of the Sacred Heaven Alliance. She sneers, and with a sudden flick of her wrist, the Tian Mo Qin appears in her palm. Chi Huang was stunned. What are you doing? Mu Yan plucked the strings of the zither. Of course it is to wake Xiang Yunzhou and let him refine my natal sword. Didn't you always say that my natal sword wasn't cool enough and that it wasn't as handsome as youngest uncle? If I help Xiang Yunzhou absorb the golden crow fire, what kind of life-bond sword do you think he will forge for me? Chi Huang looked at the high-spirited young girl outside the space. He wanted to say that the power of the golden crow fire essence was great. How could it be so easily tamed? Xiang Yunzhou's meridians had already been corroded by the fire poison and there was no hope for him. But in the end, all his doubts disappeared without a trace when he saw that pair of sparkling peach blossom eyes. Lord Artifact Spirit brushed his red robe and crossed his arms in front of his chest. He said with a disdainful expression, "All right, isn't it just golden crow fire essence? If it dares to cause trouble, I will beat it until it doubts its own life." Giguji. He began to doubt his life. The little chick, who had rolled over to Chi Huang's side, immediately raised its little wings and shouted. Mu Yan closes her eyes. When she opens them again, her fingers are already quickly plucking the strings. The melodious sound of the zither flowed in the quiet basement. Those who were originally focused on the bell cauldron could not help but forget to look over. Dr. Jun, why are you playing music now? Dr. Wen is still treating the Alliance Master. Can you be quiet? Mu Yan turns a deaf ear to everyone's questions, but her hands move faster and faster on the zither. The sound of the zither became more and more urgent, like a torrential downpour, hitting the stone walls. Paw, 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 paw. Gradually, the sound became incoherent, like noise. Just as Steward Wu and the others were about to lose their patience, the bell cauldron suspended in midair suddenly swayed. After that, the yellow light flickered for a while and then disappeared. When Jian's expression changed, "What's going on?" The spiritual sense connection between him and Zhongding was unexpectedly cut off by something. Clang! An ear-piercing voice suddenly rang out, causing everyone present to tremble. Immediately after, Zhongding flew towards Mu Yan at high speed. Finally, it floated above her head. Wen Jian's face turned deathly pale. He suddenly turned around and looked at the girl playing the zither. Gnashing his teeth, he said, "Bitch, what did you do?" His connection with Zhongding's divine sense was completely severed. That was a treasure given to him by the imperial tutor. If he lost it, if he messed up this mission, he would suffer a fate worse than death. Mu Yan slowly raises her head. Under the dim light of the basement, she can vaguely see the girl's delicate porcelain skin, bright red and tender lips, thick and long eyelashes, and under the cover of those long eyelashes, her peach blossom eyes are as clear as water, and overflowing with brilliant colors. "Sorry, I am very interested in this magic treasure of yours. I would like to borrow it to study it." She was right. This bell cauldron was not something that could be heard or spoken. Therefore, Mayan easily cut off the connection between him and Zhong Ding. Wen Jian's face was twisted and his eyes were filled with a crazy killing intent. He couldn't help but let out a furious roar. He condensed all the spiritual energy in his body and fiercely slapped Mu Yen. Wen Jian was an expert of the opening mountain realm. How could a little girl in the mortal cultivation realm like Mu Yen block this palm? Beitang Feilu's complexion changed greatly, and he growled, "Mu Yen, be careful." Chapter 33-49. Hikaizu also took out his defensive artifact to save her, but he was still a step too late. Seeing Wen Jian's murderous intent, Mayan sat motionless in the same place, the corners of her lips slightly hooked, her posture lazy. The next moment, there was a loud bang. Wen Jian's whole body flew out, heavily hitting the ice wall. The ice wall shattered, and countless gravel and ice pieces smashed onto Wen Jian's body. On the other side, a tall and handsome man appeared out of nowhere in front of Mayan. Beitang Feilu sucked in a cold breath. Heavens! There's actually such a handsome man in this world. Steward Wu turned pale with fright. Who are you? How did you enter the forbidden area of my sacred heaven alliance? Zhang Heng was the only one present who recognized him at a glance. Wasn't this man emitting a terrible pressure, Mayan's fiancé? But he clearly didn't come to the sacred heaven alliance, so how could he appear here? Di Mingju, who appeared out of nowhere, was holding a jade slip in his hand, which was flickering with a faint light. Elder Chang's nervous voice came from inside. Jun Shang, what happened? Nothing. Wait a moment. After coldly replying, Di Mingju turned around and pulled Mayan up. He examined her from head to toe and sighed in relief. Feeling the cold environment, he couldn't help but frown. He took off his clothes and tightly wrapped the woman in his arms. His gaze swept over Wen Jian, who was struggling to get up from the ruins, and he lightly said, "Do you want Ben Jun to kill these jumping clowns for you?" Mayan smiled, her eyes curved. "No need, I can take care of it myself." "Did I disturb your business?" Di Mingju coldly looked at the jade slip in his hand, and said without hesitation, "It's just a trivial matter." Far away in the Shushan continent, the people of the polar domain gathered in the High Sky Hall, waiting for the Emperor's next instruction. T_T, how was the unusual movement of the Nether Realm and the demon army a trivial matter? Ben Jun will accompany you, no need. Mayan pushed him, "You continue with your business, I'll save my people. If there's danger, it won't be too late for you to save the beauty." Di Mingju purses his lips in displeasure. He was the extreme domain's sovereign emperor. Was he someone who could come and go at the beck and call? At the very least, he should collect some interest. Just as he was thinking this, a gentle kiss fell on his cheek. The girl's gentle and sweet voice sounded in his ears. "Thank you for saving my life, but I have no way to repay you. I can only repay you with my body in the future." The Emperor's ears turned slightly red. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly before he suppressed it again. Finally, with a light snort, he disappeared on the spot. All of this happened in just a few moments. The crowd didn't even have time to react before the handsome man who suddenly appeared disappeared. Wen Jian staggered and stabilized his body, but spat out another mouthful of blood. His face was even paler than Han Song's, who had lost his summoned beast. He glares at Mu Yen. What did you just do?" Mu Yen revealed an innocent smile. "It's nothing. It's just that my fiancé couldn't bear to see a slug bully me, so he came out to fight for me." "How was that nothing?" This person casually broke into the forbidden area of the Sacred Heavens Alliance. Wen Jian, a cultivator at the peak of the mountain opening realm, didn't even have the strength to fight back under his casual palm. Chapter 3350. He came as he pleased, attacked as he pleased, and disappeared as he pleased. To this man, everyone present was like an ant that he couldn't even be bothered to look at. How is it nothing? At this time, when Jian really wants to slap Mayan to death. However, the chi and blood in his body surged and his spiritual power collapsed. He was actually heavily injured by that man's casual palm strike. If not for the armor given to him by the Imperial Preceptor, he probably wouldn't even be able to stand up. When Jian forcefully took out a pill and swallowed it before gritting his teeth and saying, "Fine, I won't argue with you about this." Mu Yan unhurriedly says, "It's fine if Dr. Wen wants to haggle over it. At worst, I'll just call my fiancé over again. I'm a very timid person. When Dr. Wen scared me, I was so scared that I wanted to find someone to rely on and protect me. Everyone, I really don't see how you're a coward." Wen Jian was so angry that the top of his head seemed to be emitting smoke, and his whole body was trembling because of his anger. But in the end, he still endured. "That underworld sky cauldron is the treasure of my Wen family. Please return it to me, Dr. Jun." Mu Yan hooks up her lips. "Just because you say it's yours, it's yours. Why don't you call it and see if it will respond?" "You." Jun Mayan, don't go too far. Even Steward Wu and the others, who were watching from the side, felt that Mayan had gone too far this time. Most importantly, their alliance master was still in the cauldron and had yet to be treated. When Jian glanced at Steward Wu and sneered, "I was just curing Alliance Leader Xiang's fire poison and was interrupted at the crucial moment. Now that the fire poison has probably invaded Alliance Leader Xiang's heart meridian, if there is any delay, Alliance Leader Xiang's life will be hard to save. I'll leave it here. Think about what your Sacred Heaven Alliance plans to do." Upon hearing this, Steward Wu and the rest's expressions changed. His gaze towards Mayan is also extremely unkind. "Dr. Jun, please don't make trouble. Our alliance leader's life is at stake. Please return the dark sky cauldron to Dr. Wen immediately." Mayan sneered, revealing a mocking expression. "If you give the dark sky cauldron to Wen Jian, that would be the real trouble." "What do you mean?" "Jun Mayan, don't be too arrogant. Even if your fiancé has extraordinary abilities, our Sacred Heaven Alliance is not to be trifled with. If our alliance leader dies because of you, we'll make you pay with your life." Mu Yan's cold gaze swept across everyone in the Sacred Heaven Alliance, and she said unhurriedly, "A bunch of idiots. Can't you see that when Jian is not trying to save Alliance Leader Xiang, but wants to use Alliance Leader Xiang as a sacrifice to absorb the Golden Crow Fire Essence, using the Underworld Sky Cauldron?" "What? Using the Alliance Master as a sacrifice? What is Golden Crow Fire Essence?" The people of the Sacred Heaven Alliance were confused. However, when Ji Yan's face changed greatly as he looked at Mu Yan with a face full of fear. How did this little girl know about Golden Crow Fire Essence? How did she know his motive? Mu Yan looked at Wen Jian with a smile. "What? Curious how I know all this. That's because I can predict." Wen Jian's face twisted, and he scolded loudly, "Bitch, don't make irresponsible accusations and slander me. Not only do I know your motive, I also know that this Underworld Sky Cauldron does not belong to you." Mu Yan turned a deaf ear to his cursing, and continued to speak unhurriedly. "As everyone knows, as long as it's a high-level treasure, as long as it's refined by a cultivator, there will be a certain soul contract between the magic tool and its master." Chapter 3351. As long as the contract seal is not erased, others will not be able to use it. The Sacred Heaven Alliance specializes in the refinement of artifacts. You must be very clear about this, right? Steward Wu hesitantly looked at Mu Yan, then looked at Wen Jian, and nodded, indeed. Come, Dr. Wen, didn't you say that the underworld sky cauldron is the heirloom of your Wen family? Then try to make your contract light up now. As long as you can prove that the Netherski cauldron is indeed your contracted treasure, I'll return it to you immediately. How about it? Everyone's gaze fell on Wen Jian. Then, he saw his ashen face. For a moment, everyone reacted. What Jun Mayan said was actually true. The netherworld sky cauldron was indeed not something that could be heard and spoken of. Then why did he lie? Wen Jian gritted his teeth and said, fine, so what if I admit that I borrowed this thing? Is that a reason for you to snatch it? That's weird. Mayan chuckles and interrupts him. Alliance head Xiang has been poisoned by the Golden Crow fire poison. No one in the world should know, right? Even the people of Holy Heaven Alliance could not tell that what was on Alliance Chief Xiang's body was the essence of Golden Crow fire. Just now, Dr. Han had lost his summoned beast because of his carelessness. But how did you know, Dr. Wen? Not only does he know, he even specially borrowed the underworld sky cauldron that can counter the Golden Crow fire. Does Dr. Wen have the ability to predict the future? Following Mayan's narration, Wen Jian's complexion has turned from purple to pale. The gazes of Steward Wu and the others gradually sharpened. Just now, they were worried about the Alliance Master's safety, so they didn't think it through. Now that it was brought up by Mayan, he felt that this Wen Jian was full of flaws. Wen Jian had been exceptionally arrogant ever since he entered the Sacred Heaven Alliance. He even used the Yin snake goo to hurt Hikaizu and the others. He even demanded to take away the Sacred Heaven Alliance's treasure, the Ninth Heaven Thunder Saber. He did not seem to be afraid that if he failed to cure Xiang Yunzhou, he would end up offending the Sacred Heaven Alliance and not be able to leave alive. Why? Because from the beginning, Wen Jian knew what illness Xiang Yunzhou had. Mu Yan's fingertips lightly press on the zither strings, casually plucking as she continues, perhaps, from the very beginning, he never intended to let us walk out alive. Most likely, when the netherworld sky cauldron absorbed the essence of the Golden Crow, Alliance leader Xiang alone would not be enough. In his eyes, all of us are sacrificial offerings. Wen Jian could not hold it in any longer and roared, "Shut up. Bitch, you're framing me. I'm the dignified #1 divine physician of the Lan family empire, the imperial court physician. How could I possibly do such a thing? How dare you accuse me without any evidence? I don't have any evidence." Mu Yan reveals a bright and beautiful smile. However, I'm very good at extorting confessions through torture. Since the truth came out from your mouth, it should be able to be used as evidence, right? Before Wen Jian and Steward Wu could react, the unhurried sound of a zither rang out in the cold basement. The sound of the zither was melodious, lingering, and intoxicating to the ears of others. But in Wen Jian's ears, it was like hypnosis, causing his mind to slowly fall into a trance. Everything in front of him became more and more blurry. Finally, there is a bang. Wen Jian's already exhausted body fell to the ground, falling into a deep sleep. Floating like a dream activates. Chapter 3352. It's really thanks to Di Mingju seriously injuring Wen Jian, otherwise, with Mayan's current cultivation. It's really not easy to drag a cultivator at the peak of the opening mountain realm into a dream. Mayan lightly purses her lips, hooking up into a beautiful arc. The speed at which her fingers pluck the strings is getting faster and faster. On the ground, Wen Jian's brows wrinkled tighter and tighter, the expression on his face becoming more and more frightened and desperate. His body unconsciously curls up, twitching and spasming. His thick hair starts to fall down in handfuls. His facial skin, which originally only had fine wrinkles, quickly shrinks and wrinkles. After the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, Wen Jian seems to have aged more than 10 years. Only then did Mu Yen lightly pluck the strings with her fingertips, producing a resounding sound. The sleeping Wen Jian trembles, slowly opening his eyes. Dream, it's a dream. Everything just now was just a dream, great. He cries and screams like he's crazy, his voice hoarse and crazy. However, when he raises his head, he meets the girl's peach blossom eyes that seem to be smiling yet not smiling. His whole body is a guardian spirit, and his eyes reveal the fear of seeing a malicious spirit. You, what did you do to me? Thousands of years of life pass by in a flash. I gave you a chance to experience a different life in a dream. It's the same as letting you live a few more lifetimes, isn't that good? No. I don't want to experience it. Wen Jian screams hysterically, wanting to rush over and smash the zither in Mayan's hands. But he's just been seriously injured, and now he's suffering and floating like a dream. After running a few steps, he staggers and falls to the ground. The surrounding cold air penetrates his body, making his teeth chatter incessantly, and he can't even say a word. Mayan looks at his sorry figure, but her eyes are colder than the temperature in the ice room. Wen Jian, what you just experienced was the final outcome of those patients who were harmed by you. What? When you framed them and schemed to seize their family property and treasures, why didn't you ask them if they wanted to experience that kind of life? Wen Jian trembles and tries to get up from the ground, but because his hands and feet are weak, he falls heavily on the ice several times. His head is bleeding for a while. He could only lie there in a sorry state, then look at Mu Yen with fear and resentment. You, who exactly are you? Do you know that I'm the imperial physician of the Lan family empire? If you kill me, the Lan family empire will definitely not let you off. Mu Yen narrowed her eyes slightly. In that case, your actions in the Holy Heaven Alliance this time are related to the Lan family empire. Steward Wu's pupils shrank as he glared at Wen Jian. Wen Jian said with a trembling voice, I don't understand what you're saying. The Sacred Heaven Alliance sent out hero invitations to invite doctors, that's why I came over. I didn't expect them to take revenge. Then let's change the question. Mu Yen interrupted him. Do you really want to use the Dark Sky Cauldron to save Alliance Master Xiang? Seeing that Wen Jian is about to open his mouth, Mu Yen sneers and presses her fingers on the strings. Wen Jian, you better think carefully before you answer. If you tell a lie, I'll let you stay in this nightmare for another 100 years. Wen Jian's face paled as he recalled the days and nights he had experienced in the nightmare. Looking at his wrinkled hands, his body began to tremble. Mu Yen presses her fingers on the strings and slowly plucks them. The pleasant music in the ears of others is like a talisman to hasten Wen Jian's death. He finally breaks down and yells, No. Don't let me enter the nightmare again. I'll tell you everything. Chapter 33:53. The Dark Sky Cauldron is used to absorb the Golden Crow fire essence. Mu Yen, and after that? What will happen to Alliance Master Xiang? Wen Jian glanced at the ashen-faced Steward Wu, gritting his teeth, his soul will scatter. Scoundrel! How dare you! How vicious of you! We invited you to treat the Alliance Master, but you want to kill him. Steward Wu took a step forward and stomped on Wen Jian's back, gritting his teeth. Speak, who sent you to harm the Alliance Master? And that Golden Crow, was it a trap you guys set for the Alliance Master? Wen Jian screamed from the stomp, I can save Xiang Yunzhou, I really can save Xiang Yunzhou. In this world, only I can cure the Golden Crow fire poison. If you kill me, Xiang Yunzhou will definitely die. Do you think we will still believe you? Speak, who instigated you to go against the Sacred Heavens Alliance? Cold sweat dripped down Wen Jian's forehead. Blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. His face was full of pain, but his mouth was tightly shut. As if telling the truth would be more terrifying than death. Mu Yan narrowed her eyes, playing faster and faster. It doesn't matter if you don't speak. Then let the nightmares continue. When the time comes, I will always be able to see what I want to see. After, floating like a dream, rose to 3 stars, she could obtain the memories of the dreamer in the dream. Of course, not all memories could be obtained. The more the secret the owner did not want others to know, the more tightly the related memories would be sealed and protected. Only when the soul slowly shattered and could no longer control one's consciousness, could the buried memories be dug out. This was like the soul-searching art. The more memories were taken, the more damage it would cause. In serious cases, one would become an idiot, or even have their soul scattered. Wen Jian's face was ashen. Thinking of what Mu Yan had said, everything he had experienced was the miserable ending of the patients he had harmed. He couldn't help but believe that Mu Yan was telling the truth. I'll speak. I'll say anything. Wen Jian broke down and cried, crawling over to stop Mu Yan from playing. Please, don't let me enter the dream again. Mu Yan stops playing and looks at him. Wen Jian gritted his teeth and said with a trembling voice, it's the country. His second syllable hasn't even left his mouth when the cauldron bell above Mayan suddenly emits an ear-piercing hum. Following that, a dazzling red light shot out from the bell and landed on Wen Jian's body. Ah! A ball of flame sprang up from Wen Jian's back. In the blink of an eye, he was burned to ashes along with his bones, flesh and soul. Mu Yan suddenly looked up, and the 7 absolute swords whistled out, chopping toward the bell in the sky. With a loud bang, the entire ice room shook and shattered ice flew everywhere. A charred corpse fell from the bell cauldron. Before anyone could react, the netherworld sky cauldron flew out of the passageway with a whoosh and disappeared before everyone's eyes. Everyone's face turned ashen. Steward Wu's eyes were filled with hatred. Who is it? Who is so vicious and arrogant? They were simply looking down on the Sacred Heaven Alliance. Mu Yan exhaled and looked at them with a complicated expression. Inwardly, she thought, as one of the 3 major alliances, you guys are indeed a bit too useless. Any random doctor could bully him, so it was no wonder that he was so easily schemed against. Chapter 3354. Meeting Mayan's gaze, Steward Wu instantly understood. For a moment, he was so ashamed that he wanted to find a hole to hide in. He gritted his teeth and looked at Heng, activate the Moonlight Illusionary Formation, immediately. No matter what, you have to contact the old ancestor and have him return as soon as possible. Heng hesitated, but didn't the Alliance Master say that the old ancestor could finally put down his burden and go out to play, and that we should not disturb him no matter what? The Alliance Master is kind and filial, but are you stupid as well? Steward Wu shouted angrily, others are already bullying us. If the old ancestor finds out, will he still be able to play? Go now. If there are any consequences, I will bear them all. Heng hurriedly accepted the order and left. Steward Wu, however, looked at Mayan and bowed deeply to her. Our Sacred Heaven Alliance will never forget Dr. Jun's life-saving grace. Mayan said lightly, he hasn't been saved yet. Isn't it too early to thank him? Steward Wu's eyes brightened, his voice trembling with excitement. Dr. Jun, are you saying that our Alliance Master can still be saved? If he is saved, is the promise that your Alliance Master will personally refine an artifact for me still valid? Yes, yes. Of course, when has the Holy Heaven Alliance not fulfilled its promise? But the artifact that I want to refine is not just one, but a set. Wouldn't it be too tiring for Alliance Master Xiang? Steward Wu agreed on behalf of the Alliance Master without hesitation. No problem. Dr. June, as long as you can save the Alliance Master, you will be our Holy Heaven Alliance's benefactor. We will definitely fulfill your request even if we have to go through hell. Not to mention that it is our duty to let the Alliance Master refine an artifact. A bright smile appeared on Mayan's face. Since Steward Wu is so understanding, then I, June Mayan, will guarantee Alliance Master Xiang's life. Hey, June Mayan, how do you plan to save this charred corpse? It was silent in the cold ice room. Because Steward Wu, Hikaizu, and the others had already been chased out by Mayan. Her reason was very simple. It would be very risky to expel the Golden Crow fire essence from Xiang Yunzhou's body. Once the Golden Crow fire essence was awakened, the energy would explode. Everyone present would be swallowed by the flames and die without a burial. The Golden Crow fire essence would only calm down after swallowing enough souls. This was also the method that Wen Jian had initially planned to use them as sacrifices. It would be best if the Golden Crow fire essence did not awaken. Once it awakened, Wen Jian could hide within the underworld sky cauldron, but the other people present would definitely be burnt until not even their bones remained. Upon hearing Mu Yan's words, not only did Steward Wu not have the slightest doubt, he even shed tears of gratitude. He only feels that Dr. Mayan has a benevolent heart. In order to save their Union Master's life, she doesn't even care about her own safety. Of course, Qi Huang isn't worried about Mayan's safety. If an insignificant lazy flame spirit were to injure Mayan in front of him, then he, Qi Huang, wouldn't be able to mingle anymore. However, he really couldn't think of a way to save Xiang Yunzhou. Mayan reveals a mysterious smile, her fingers slowly strumming the Tian Mo Qin. This is the inspiration that the dark sky cauldron gave me. A bad premonition suddenly surged in Qi Huang's heart. An hour later, his premonition came true. June Mayan, you really are a madwoman. Qi Huang muttered. Looking at the pale face outside the space, but the confident and disdainful smile on her face, her eyes shining with determination, the corners of his mouth unconsciously curled up. A gentle smile that even he himself didn't realize appeared on his face. Chapter 33:55. At this time, the ice that had covered the cold basement had completely melted. Half a person's height of water had accumulated on the ground. Floating in the air, Xiang Yunzhou, who had been silent and motionless like a corpse, was twitching uncontrollably. Groans of pain occasionally escaped from his chest. Above Xiang Yunzhou, a golden-red ball of fire was jumping like the sun, emitting a scorching heat that could melt everything around it. Hundreds of strands of silver energy were entwined around the fireball. The other end of the energy strands was connected to the Tian Mo Qin. Mu Yan's gaze fell on the Golden Crow fire essence that was jumping in the air, as if it was desperately struggling. The corners of her mouth curled up, revealing a sinister smile. The fact that you could be subdued by the nether sky cauldron means that you know how to compromise. My Tian Mo Qin is 1,000 times more powerful than that substandard demonic artifact, the nether sky cauldron. If you continue to make trouble, then at worst we'll both die together. Hearing Mu Yan's words, the Golden Crow fire in the air started to shake violently. The scorching flames didn't just shoot out, but as soon as they landed on the wall, there would be a sizzling sound. Even the hard and cold bluestone was instantly vaporized. The Golden Crow was really angry. Normally, what humans were most afraid of was that it would completely awaken. Even if they wanted to subdue it, they had to lower their stance and offer it all kinds of tributes. Those tributes were the most delicious and tender human souls. So it reluctantly went to the talisman that they provided and stayed for a while. In any case, it could still eat and sleep well inside. When it needed something, it could just sneeze. But what about this damned woman in front of it? Using the body of impurities to produce the purest spirit fire, luring it out of its already decaying body. The Golden Crow had thought that she would use her own spirit fire to worship it and curry its favor. But who knew that as soon as it came out of Xiang Yunzhou's body, it would be bound by countless strands of energy, unable to break free. This human didn't intend to beg it at all, but wanted it to obediently submit. Bastard! Bastard! When had it, the Golden Crow, suffered such humiliation? Lowly humans deserve to die. The Golden Crow's violent struggle caused the temperature of the basement to rise again. Not to mention the layer of ice, even the surrounding rocks and bricks began to melt rapidly. Only when the sparks hit Mu Yan will they be blocked by an invisible energy shield. The energy threads that were wrapped around the golden fireball broke one by one, and then wrapped around it again with the sound of the zither, repeating the cycle. Mu Yan's body has long been completely drenched in sweat, her lips a captivating red. But his face was deathly pale. On one hand, he had to restrain the Golden Crow, and on the other, he had to use Divine Hand's weave to block the Golden Crow. One could imagine how much spiritual power she had consumed. "Mother, let me help you." A clear voice of a child rang out. Xiao Bao had appeared beside Mu Yan at some point in time. The Bixia sword in his hand emitted a buzzing sound as he slashed at the Golden Crow in the sky. The fat rabbit also appeared at the same time. It opened its mouth wide and swallowed all the sparks flying over into its stomach. The sparks that could even melt rocks and iron. But when it reached the fat rabbit's mouth, there was no reaction at all. Mu Yan turns her head to look at the little person standing beside her, revealing a shallow and gentle smile. "Okay, thank you Xiao Bao for your help. It's been a long time since we fought side by side." Chapter 3356. Xiao Bao's ice-blue eyes brighten at once. His spirit is greatly shaken, and he happily swings his sword at the Golden Crow a second time. Bai Xie's attack is clearly effective against the Golden Crow. The golden fireball trembles violently in the air, making a shrill cry like a kettle boiling. Then, a huge eye opens in the center of the fireball. It's filled with extreme anger and murderous intent. The golden color of the Golden Crow is gradually replaced by a blood-red color. Paw paw paw. The threads wrapping around the fireball are broken one by one. Poof! A flame sprang up from the Tian Mo Qin, and Mayan retreats several steps to luckily avoid it. Although the flame quickly disappears, the playing is interrupted. In the end, the Golden Crow still breaks free. At this time, the fat rabbit's belly is round from eating, and it's drowsy. The Bai Xia sword also can't withstand the scorching heat, and it makes a painful buzzing sound. Xiao Bao's originally white and tender little face has become as red as an apple, and his clothes have already been soaked with sweat. Mayan presses her hand on Xiao Bao's head, and softly says, "Xiao Bao, be good and enter the Tian Mo Qin space, okay?" Xiao Bao worriedly raises his little head, looking at Mayan. Mayan smiles at him. "Don't worry, Nyangqin will not be in danger." Xiao Bao nods, and disappears with Bai Xia and the fat rabbit who has already fallen asleep. In the space, Qi Huang coldly snorts, "You only know how to be brave. This sage has already told you, with your current cultivation, it's still impossible to subdue the Golden Crow. Let this sage go out. This kind of low-level flame essence, this sage can pinch it until it can't move." Mayan shakes her head. "This is the floating island, too close to the Shushin continent. What if your breath leaks out and you're discovered?" Qi Huang's face darkens, and he unwillingly clenches his fists, his eyes indescribably gloomy. Mayan smiles and says, "Relax, Qi Xiao Huang, you're not my only external aid." In the air, the golden crow excitedly jumps up and down in the air. That big ugly eye was filled with disdain and resentment. "Lowly human, now do you know the consequences of provoking me?" the golden crow. Mu Yan wiped the sweat off her forehead like rain. She looked up at Jinwoo and revealed a pitying smile. "Wasn't it good to be obedient before? If we settle this peacefully, you will suffer less, and I won't have to mobilize so many people." Jinwoo looked at Mu Yan as if looking at an idiot. Is this woman crazy? Even at a time like this, he still felt that he could control the golden crow fire essence. "Human, my calamity fire of burning soul will turn you into ashes and you will never be able to reincarnate." The golden crow was about to move. The woman in front of him touched a ring on her ring finger. Puff! A ball of flame sprays towards Mayan like lightning. Just as he was about to melt her skin and bones, a chilling aura suddenly filled the entire basement. Then, the golden crow saw the fireball it had spat out being casually extinguished by a slender and beautiful hand. As soon as Di Ming-ju appears, he feels the scorching temperature around him, and frowns fiercely. The divine power within his body revolves, and the scorching heat in the air that could melt a person's flesh and bones seems to have been suddenly sucked away by something. Di Ming-ju pulls the sweaty young girl into his arms. His mouth complains, but his eyes are full of distress. "Nonsense. Is this what you said you could handle?" Mayan secretly sticks out her tongue. "I couldn't handle it, so I called my dear fiancé. Did I disturb you again?" Chapter 3357. Di Ming-ju calmly cut off the jade slip connecting to the universe mirror, faintly saying, "It's already over." Then, he turned to look at the golden crow that was frozen in fear in the air, frowning in disdain. "You want this fire essence?" Even in the Shushan continent, the golden crow's fire essence was a treasure that everyone fought for. But rumor had it that this fire essence was especially mischievous, had a bad temper, and was harder to raise than the mythological beasts of his polar domain. Di Ming-ju said, "If you want to refine this golden crow fire, I'll help you dissolve the spiritual consciousness inside. This way, it'll be easier for you to use it." The golden crow's entire body trembled. The enormous eye was filled with terror. The appearance that had turned blood red quickly recovered to gold, then silver. The fireball trembled up and down. It wanted to escape, wanted to release the fire essence that could burn everything in the world. But its instincts as an elf told it that facing this man, any tricks were useless. This man was too strong, stronger than everyone it had ever met on the Shushan continent and the floating islands combined. That was an existence infinitely close to a god. Why? Why would such a terrifying man appear here? Was it really the end for the Grand Golden Crow today? It had worked so hard to cultivate a spiritual consciousness, it didn't want to dissipate. Woo woo woo. The huge eye trembled, and then trembled again. Big drops of tears rolled down from it. The golden crow knew that begging this man was useless. So it turned its pleading gaze towards Mu Yan. "Woo woo woo, I know I was wrong. I'm willing to be obedient, spare me." Mu Yan looked at the pitiful golden crow in the air, and smiled. "I told you to be obedient earlier, but you didn't listen. Now do you know how gentle and kind this lady is to you?" Di Ming-ju reached out to grab the air, and the trembling silver-white golden crow was caught in his hand. Divine power enveloped the fireball. The golden crow's enormous eye rolled up, full of despair. "It's over, it's over. It's going to die." Mu Yan finally pressed down on Di Ming-ju's hand, smiling. "Forget it, let's leave it with its dog life. A fire essence with spiritual consciousness is hard to deal with, but it has room for growth. My master said that if I want to refine pills that are above the saint grade, I need to refine a ball of spiritual fire that truly belongs to me. In my opinion, this is it." As he spoke, he stretched out 2 fingers and pinched the golden crow. After turning silver white, the golden crow's body no longer felt scorching hot. Instead, it felt warm, like a hand warmer. Tell me, will you still be a demon in the future? The golden crow in her hand shook its head frantically. Are you willing to be obedient? Nodding madly. Are you willing to sign a master-servant contract with me? Willing. As long as my divine sense isn't erased, as long as I don't have to stay with this terrifying man, I'm willing to do anything. Mu Yen shows a gentle and kind smile and touches the warm silver ball. You see, wouldn't it have been better if you had been so obedient earlier? Why did you have to force me to use my trump card and bring trouble upon myself? Jinwoo, sob. Who knew that your trump card was so illegal? The faint golden light turned into runes in the air and wrapped around Mu Yen and the golden crow. The master-servant contract was established. Mu Yen looked at the unconscious Yang Yunzhou in the water, and used her foot to kick the silently crying fire essence. Give him a bit of golden crow fire, idiot. I'm not asking you to burn him to death, I'm asking you to absorb it. The depressed golden crow heard Mu Yan's order, and directly separated a small ball of golden flame to smash towards Yang Yunzhou. Chapter 3358. Mayan was caught off guard and couldn't stop it in time. She could only smash the Tian Mo Qin in her hand. The Tian Mo Qin and the golden crow fire collided. Boom! After a loud noise, the earth shook, and the entire basement completely collapsed. Alliance Master. Dr. June, how are you guys? Are you still alive? What's going on? The underground ice room was built with the hardest, iron bluestone, and it was even covered with fortification and defense arrays. How could it collapse? Alliance Master, boo-hoo, did the Alliance Master die inside? In the Holy Heaven Alliance, everyone stood at the collapsed entrance, their hearts burning with anxiety. At this moment, their vision blurred, and several figures appeared in front of them. The first thing everyone saw was a tall and handsome man who looked like a god. No, handsomeness was only a momentary sensation. The people present couldn't even see his appearance clearly. Because with just a glance, they felt awe and submission from the bottom of their hearts. Their eyelids unconsciously drooped, not daring to look straight at him. Their bodies trembled slightly, as if instinctively wanting to kneel and worship. Who was this man? Why would he appear in their Holy Heaven Alliance? Only Steward Wu and the others were wild with joy when they saw the newcomer. Because other than the handsome man, there was also a devastatingly beautiful girl, as well as their unconscious Alliance Master, who was being carried by the man. Dr. June, it's great that you're all right. Steward Wu almost cried out. He thought that his Alliance Master was dead for sure, and even the innocent Mayan's life was involved. He didn't expect Mayan's fiancé to be so resourceful. Going in and out of their Holy Heaven Alliance's forbidden area was like entering an uninhabited land. If it was in the past, Steward Wu would definitely be vigilant. But now, he only wanted to thank the heavens. Dr. June, what about the Golden Crow fire poison and our Alliance Master's injuries? Mayan's expression was still not very good, and she motioned for Di Mingju to return Xiang Yunzhou to the Holy Heaven Alliance. Di Mingju casually tossed it away like trash. Steward Wu and the others scrambled over and managed to catch their alliance leader after much difficulty. Dr. June, could it be that our Alliance Master can't be saved? Steward Wu's eyes were red, his face already showing despair. Don't worry, his injuries have been healed. It was just that the consumption was too great, so he couldn't remain unconscious. When he wakes up, feed him some pills to replenish his spiritual power and vitality, and he will be able to recover completely. Steward Wu listened in a daze. For a moment, he felt as if he had suddenly flown from hell to heaven. Dr. June, our Sacred Heaven Alliance is indebted to you. Di Mingju doesn't wait for them to finish speaking, and directly grabs them and disappears. Only the girl's clear and melodious voice came from afar. 3 days later, I will come to collect the consultation fee. In the Tian Mo Chin space. The Fat Rabbit, Little Phoenix, Bai Xia, and Little Chick were surrounding a small silver ball and beating it up. Ah! How dare you bully this beautiful sister? I'll beat you up. I'll beat you to death. Goo goo gee gee, is this a new game? Huang Huang likes to play together. The small silver ball tried to dodge, but it was unable to do so. In the end, he couldn't help but cry. It was the golden crow. How could he be so miserable? As if a great demon king and a she-devil weren't enough, there were actually a bunch of little devils among them. All of them were bullying it. Chapter 33:59. Woo woo woo. That's enough. Stop. An icy childish voice sounded. The little ones did not hesitate to stop bullying the little silver bowl. The golden crow swayed and rolled half a circle, looking forward with its enormous single eye. He saw a fairy-like little boy with his arms crossed in front of his chest, slowly walking toward him. In front of the book pagoda not far away, there was a young man dressed in red with peerless talent. A pair of narrow phoenix eyes looked at it as though it was a pile of trash. The golden crow shuddered and started to tremble in fear. So scary, so scary. This little child had the presence of a demon king. Even his appearance was the same. And this red-clothed youth, it was clearly not near, but the golden crow felt as though it would be devoured at any moment. Xiao Bao looked down at it and said coldly, "You are too stupid. You can't even understand mother's orders." The little chick flapped its broken wing excitedly and chuckled. Stupid. Stupid. Too stupid. Not as smart as Huang Huang at all. Golden Crow, woo. Xiao Bao, Brother Qi Huang said that the intelligence of elves can be tempered. So starting from today, you will be trained by us. Strive to become an obedient and smart spirit fire like mother. The golden crow blinked its large eyes. Caw. Train what? The pitiful golden crow did not know that its miserable life had just begun. Floating Island, Lawn Family Imperial Palace. A long-haired man dressed in a spotless white robe stood by the bed and looked at the cauldron glowing yellow in his palm. He narrowed his eyes and the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Someone actually subdued the golden crow fire first. Ha, interesting. Who had the ability to even subdue the golden crow fire essence? Was it from the Shushan continent? Greetings, State Preceptor. The man in front of the window turned around and looked down at the man kneeling on the ground. He smiled warmly. How is the matter at Skylight Ruins? The black-robed man's expression froze, fear in his eyes. State Preceptor, just a bit more. The boundary of Floating Light Island will be destroyed by the fiendish energy. Please give me some more time, Imperial Preceptor. Jing Yan, I trust you. That's why I gave you the mission of the Tianguang Ruins. You won't disappoint me, right? Cold sweat dripped down from the black-robed man's forehead. His palms, which were pressed against the ground, were wet and cold. It took him a long time to control his voice from trembling. Don't worry, State Preceptor. I will definitely complete the task. With that, he kowtowed heavily and turned to leave. Her lowered eyelids hid the worry and hesitation in her eyes. A girl named Yi Liangqin suddenly appeared in the Tianguang Ruins. This person had emerged as a new force in the last few months, plundering most of the treasures in the world of bloodshed. But it just so happened that none of these treasures had been handed over to the Three Alliances and the Lan Clan Empire. The black-robed man had sent many people to all the major cities to investigate, but he could not find anyone who looked like Yap Liangqin. Most importantly, this person had already topped the Carnage chart 5 times in a row. However, the warning from the Imperial Preceptor was still ringing in his ears. The black-robed man clenched his sweaty hands. Never mind, it would be better not to report this matter to the Imperial Preceptor. After all, it was only 5 times. It was still far from 12 times. Also, at most 6 times. In the heavenly light ruins of the massacre chart, no one had been able to top more than 6 times in a row. When he caught this Yap Liangqin, he would ask for forgiveness from the Imperial Preceptor. Chapter 3360. Sky Island, Tianguang Ruins. Unknowingly, the previously dilapidated and shabby base of the Thunder Gang had greatly changed its appearance. Although it wasn't richly ornamented and magnificent, it was decorated warmly and comfortably. The layout and atmosphere of the whole palace were warm and lively. It formed a sharp contrast with the gloomy and cold world of slaughter. In the main hall, Ma Quishan was discussing gang affairs with several elders of the Old Man No. 1 under the World Gang. Suddenly, there was a flash of light on the sofa in front of them. A young girl in green clothes with a delicate face appeared in front of everyone. The people in this room were all fierce and murderous. Only Ma Quishan was slightly better. It made the girl on the sofa look especially young and immature, slender and fragile. It was as if anyone here could crush someone to death with just a finger. However, when the fierce men in the room saw the girl, their eyes immediately lit up. Like fanatical believers, they rushed over and kowtowed to the girl excitedly. "Great Goddess Yi, you are finally here. There are only 10 days left until the 6th slaughter list is updated. We were afraid that you would come too late and let someone else take advantage of you." Mu Yen smiled. "Why do you seem to care more than me about whether I can continue to be the top of the slaughter list?" "Of course." Ma Quishan said happily, "Miss, you don't know how many people in Tianguang Ruins worship you." Su De said excitedly, "These days, there are countless people who have applied to join the Old Man No. 1 under the World Gang. The reputation of our gang has now steadily surpassed that of the Drunk House and the Moon of West River." When he first followed Boss Lu to rob Mu Yen, he never thought that he would follow such a new master who defied the natural order. Su Air, now, next to the slaughter list, there are already many people who have opened bets, betting on whether Great Goddess Yi can break Fu Yizui's record of 6 consecutive times. Mu Yen smiled. "What are the odds?" Su San answered, "The odds that you can tie Fu Yizui's record are 100 to 1. And the odds that you can break Fu Yizui's record are 1 to 1. Mu Yen originally just asked casually, but when she heard the odds, she also showed a surprised expression. Even Ma Quishan was hearing this for the first time. Why are the odds so low to break Fu Yizui's record? Could it be that the strength that young Miss had displayed during this period of time was not enough for them to recognize reality? Who in the Tianguang Ruins can contend with Miss? Su De glared at his 2 dim-witted brothers. Only then did he cough lightly and say, "Great God Yi, you might not know, but ever since the slaughter world of Tianguang Ruins was formed, the slaughter ranking has long been updated who knows how many thousands of times. During this period of time, there were people like Fu Yizue who managed to rank first 6 times in a row, but no one managed to rank first 7 times in a row. Seems like..." He paused and said hesitantly, "Seems like there's an invisible restriction in Heavenlight Ruins. Once you rank first on the Carnage roll for 6 consecutive times, this invisible restriction will be activated. If one killed a dire beast, the number and strength of the dire beasts would multiply. If one killed a human, one's opponent would receive all sorts of protection from Tianguang ruins, but one would be plagued by bad luck, and it would be difficult for one to move an inch in Tianguang ruins. This kind of restriction will only disappear after the first place on the slaughter list changes hands. Mu Yan looks pensive. No wonder. The time ratio between Tianguang ruins and reality was 10:1. In other words, over 20 years had passed in the real world, but over 200 years had passed in the Tianguang ruins. Chapter 3361. The slaughter list was rotated every 3 months. So far, the list had been updated at least 1,000 times. How could there not be one person who topped the list 12 times in a row? Su De said with a flattering smile, but great God, ye has proven your strength. Just like Fu Yizue, even if you didn't win the title 12 times in a row, how many people are willing to follow you? The treasures in Tianguang ruins are all yours. Mayan waved her hand and said nothing more. She turned and flew towards the wild beast forest. 8 days later, Yi Liangchen's name once again topped the slaughter list. 2 days later, the first place did not change. Tianguang ruins announced again that the 39th round of the slaughter list was Yi Liangchen. Whoosh! The camp of the old man number 1 in the world gang was boiling. Their great god Yi was indeed the strongest. In the wild beast forest, Mayan looked at the wild beast in front of her that had suddenly become several times stronger. Her expression became very serious. It seemed that Su De and the others were right. There was an invisible prohibition in Tianguang ruins that did not allow anyone to win the title more than 6 times in a row. But why was that? Just as the thought flashed through her mind, the wild beast roared and rushed up. Mayan quickly took out the Tian Mo Qin to resist. However, the wild beast did not only increase in strength, but also in number. In the originally quiet jungle, the roars of the wild beasts were getting closer and closer. Their escape routes were almost all blocked. Mayan's heart shuddered and she quickly retreated out of the jungle. With great difficulty, she got rid of the wild beasts. As soon as she got out of the jungle, Mayan was blocked by a group of masked men in black. Who are you people? The people on the opposite side did not speak, but took out their weapons without a word. Each weapon was dipped in poison, emitting a creepy blue-purple light. These people were obviously prepared. They had been waiting here for a long time with the purpose of intercepting and killing Mayan, who was now rejected by Tianguang ruins. If it was an ordinary person, there would be no way out in this environment. But there was not much panic on Mayan's face. Because these people did not know that the floating light jade key on her body allowed her to enter and exit Tianguang ruins at will. There was no need to rush to a specific entrance. She could leave and stay if she wanted. In this Tianguang ruins, no one could stop her. However, Mu Yan did not plan to escape just like that. She also wanted to see what secrets were hidden in this massacre skylight ruins. Just who had turned little light into this? The 7 absolute sword was unsheathed to meet the enemy. However, as time passed, Mu Yan discovered that she had underestimated the restrictions of Tianguang ruins. He could clearly see the sword move. But his hands and feet seemed to be restrained by invisible hands. Only by exhausting all the strength in his body could he resist. Before long, Mu Yan's body was already covered with cuts and bruises. The one in the Tianguang ruins wasn't his real body. However, injuries to the soul were 100 times more painful than injuries to the physical body. She can't hold on any longer. Lay the soul-killing formation, and give her a fatal blow. If we kill her, we will be able to report to the Lord. After the soul-killing array was set up, a few black-clothed men slowly approached, their eyes flickering with a faint cold light. However, in the next moment, the person they had surrounded disappeared without a trace. They looked at each other, their eyes filled with disbelief. Disappeared? How did it disappear? Did he leave the Tianguang ruins? Chapter 3362. How is this possible? This isn't the entrance to Tianguang ruins, and there's no transmission array here. How could she leave? This Yiliang Qin is too dangerous. This matter must be reported to Darren at once. Outside of Tianguang ruins, the pain disappears, and her body returns to normal. But Mayan's anger is still not smooth. The feeling of having strength but not being able to use it, and being suppressed by others, is too aggrieving. And if this goes on, it's almost impossible to achieve the 12th consecutive top position on the carnage list. As she's thinking, her nose is lightly scratched. An extremely handsome face appears in front of her. But the man is clearly in a bad mood, coldly looking at her with an unfriendly expression. Ben Jun is in front of you, and you can turn a blind eye. Mayan immediately smiles and hugs him, snuggling into his arms and rubbing against him. Is everything settled? Di Mingju pinches her chin, moves closer to look at her expression, and frowns. Did you encounter a problem that you can't solve? Mayan stares blankly. She's the best at hiding her emotions, but Di Mingju can always catch the slightest change. However, Di Jun is never a sensitive and observant person. He can detect it so quickly only because as long as the two are together, this man only has her in his eyes and heart. Thinking of this, Mayan feels as if her whole heart is soaked in warm and sweet honey water. She chuckles. It's a matter in Tianguang ruins, don't worry, I can solve it. By the way, how is the investigation of the Ning family going? Hearing that it's a matter in Tianguang ruins, Di Mingju's face turns a little unsightly. Only Tianguang ruins, which belongs to the Nether domain, is a domain that he can't touch and protect. When he hears the last sentence, his already unsightly face becomes even colder. The people of Yu tribe sent back news that there's no Ning Yanxin in the Ning family, and no one has seen Jun Shiyuan. The most important thing is that the Ning family's main family is really strange. The whole family doesn't live in a house or palace, but in an incomparably sturdy semicircular fortress that can't be probed with divine sense. Even with Di Mingju's frightening cultivation, his divine sense can't penetrate the fortress. The fortress is closed all year round, and Han Yi has sent his subordinates to monitor it for several months, but no one comes in or out. There were many cultivators with the surname Ning living outside the fort, forming a massive family clan. But these people knew almost nothing about the matters of the Ning family's direct descendants. Di Mingju coldly says, Ben Jun will directly blast open that fortress, don't. Mu Yan quickly stopped him. What if my biological parents are in the fortress? Don't tell me you want to become enemies with them. Jun Shangdaran thinks about it and his face darkens. If it were someone else, so be it. The Polar Domain's sovereign emperor would not be afraid of them. But if the people inside were Mu Yan's biological parents, that is, his father-in-law and mother-in-law, then he would really offend them. Mu Yan smiled and reached out to stroke the man's cheek, softly saying, "Let me investigate this matter. I have a feeling that I will definitely get some information about my biological parents here. I've waited for so long. What's the point of waiting another year and a half?" Di Mingju coldly snorts, and suddenly reaches out to press down on the girl's nape. He heavily kisses her. "Promise me, no matter if we can break off the engagement or not, as long as you ascend to the Shushan continent, we will get married." Mu Yan's complexion is as red as her lips, but her pair of peach blossom eyes are astonishingly bright. "All right, you still want to stop me from marrying the man I love with a mere marriage contract." Chapter 3363. The corner of Di Mingju's mouth lifts up, and he suppresses it again. What's more, there are so many fairies in the Shushan continent who are coveting you. What island master Yu Yenran, what Tian Yi Men's young master? If I don't tell the world that this man belongs to me, what if someone else takes him away? The smile on the corner of her mouth finally can't be suppressed, and it slowly spreads. Di Mingju embraces her in his arms. Even if he tries to suppress it, one can still hear the happiness in his voice. Well, you have to tell the world that Ben Jun is yours. You are also Ben Jun's. 3 days later, Mu Yen finally sees Xiang Yunzhou, who has returned to normal. His long beard flutters, and his figure is slender. Although there are wrinkles on his face and his hair is a little gray, it doesn't prevent him from being a refined and handsome old man. Seeing Mu Yen, Xiang Yunzhou deeply bows to her, his eyes full of gratitude. I can't thank you enough. Dr. Jun, what kind of treasure are you going to refine? It's very straightforward, without any intention of beating around the bush. However, Mu Yen likes this kind of vigorous and resolute style very much. She turns her wrist, and a crystal-clear long sword appears in her hand. Almost at the moment when the 7 Absolute Sword appears, Xiang Yunzhou's eyes widen, showing an expression of fascination and amazement. Seeing that Mu Yen doesn't object, he carefully takes the 7 Absolute Sword and caresses it in the air like a rare treasure. I have never seen such a godly weapon. All the sharp sword energy is converged inside, not even a little bit leaked out. And this material, I have never seen it before. How many precious materials are needed to refine such a unique flying sword? After looking at it for a while, Xiang Yunzhou reluctantly returns the 7 Absolute Sword to Mu Yen. Suddenly thinking of Mu Yan's intention, he frowns slightly. Does Dr. Jun want me to improve this flying sword for you? There's no need for that. This flying sword is almost perfect, and I have no place to improve it. Mu Yen shakes her head. I want to ask Chief Xiang to refine a few more sets of such flying swords for me. A few sets, what do you mean? A set of 7, how many sets can you refine is that? After all, my materials are limited. Xiang Yunzhou staggered and almost fell. Just this 7 Absolute Sword alone already made him feel the terrifying energy contained in it, and it was not inferior to the 9th Heaven Thunderblade at all. He had never seen such a peerless divine weapon before. Forget about refining a few sets, he couldn't even refine one. Mu Yan directly threw a piece of paper and a Qianquan bag to Xiang Yunzhou. This is the refining method of the 7 Absolute Swords and the materials needed. I have prepared a total of 3 sets. Xiang Yunzhou took the paper and looked at it, and his eyes suddenly widened. This, such a secret refining method, Dr. Jun, you gave it to me just like that? Mu Yen saw that he was even trembling as he spoke, and couldn't help but ask strangely, I don't know how to refine artifacts, what's the use of keeping this secret method? Could Alliance Chief Xiang succeed? I don't ask for all 3 sets to be completed. As long as I can complete 1 set, we'll be even. Xiang Yunzhou took a deep breath and bowed slightly, I will not let you down. The grace of saving his life, exposing Wen Jian's conspiracy, the secret refining method, he owes this Dr. Jun too much. Xiang Yunzhou has made up his mind. Even if he has to do his best, he must refine a peerless divine weapon. Chapter 3364. However, 5 days later, when Mayan was invited to the Sacred Heaven Alliance's headquarters again, she saw Xiang Yunzhou full of guilt and frustration. Her heart skipped a beat. Alliance Master Xiang, did the refining not go well? Xiang Yunzhou's face was pale, his lips were chapped, and his eyes were dark. His body was weak and tottering, as if he would fall at any time. Hearing Mayan's inquiry, Xiang Yunzhou's face was full of shame. Dr. Jun, I am ashamed that I can't even do this for you. Steward Wu, who was standing next to him, couldn't help but say, Dr. Jun, for the past 5 days, our alliance head has been refining weapons day and night, ignoring the fact that her body has just recovered. But for some reason, at the last step, she inexplicably failed. Xiang Yunzhou took out the Qinquan bag and handed it to Mayan. I'm sorry, there is only one left of the materials that you went through so much trouble to find. I am really ashamed of your kindness. Only one of the 3 materials was left. It would be a lie to say that he didn't feel pain. There were many priceless treasures inside, and it would be extremely difficult to find more. But Xiang Yunzhou had obviously tried his best. Mayan sighed softly and reached out to take the Qinquan bag. Even Xiang Yunzhou couldn't do it. Was there really no way for her to add more natal swords? She heard Qi Huang's exasperated roar, trash, trash, trash. I gave you the refining method of the lowest level 7 absolute swords, and he can't even refine it. What the hell is he doing? Oh, I am so angry. Mayan's action of putting away the Qinquan bag paused. She suddenly gritted her teeth and stuffed it back into Xiang Yunzhou's hands. Alliance Master Xiang, I will heal you now so that you can recover your energy. Can you try to refine it again? This time, I want to see it with my own eyes. Xiang Yunzhou's eyes widened slightly, then he smiled bitterly. Miss Jun, it's not that I am unwilling, but my level is not worthy of refining such a divine weapon. Even if I refine it again, it would be a waste of these precious materials. How about this? Wait for my Sacred Heaven Alliance's old ancestor to come back, let him. No need. Mu Yan firmly stuffed the Qinquan bag into Xiang Yunzhou's arms. I believe in Union Master Xiang's sincerity and ability. Even if I fail the last time, it will be my own decision. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Xiang Yunzhou stares blankly at her. Dr. Jun, do you trust me that much? In fact, in my Xiang family, my talent in refining weapons has always been unpresentable. However, he loved refining so much and hated fighting and scheming against each other. The reason he had been schemed against this time was because he had been in a rush to absorb the Golden Crow fire to prove that he had the ability to repair the Tong Tian halberd. If Mu Yan had not appeared, he could not imagine what would have happened to him and the Sacred Heaven Alliance. Therefore, after waking up, Xiang Yunzhou's emotions were immersed in self-loathing and guilt. Mu Yan smiled slightly. Alliance leader Xiang, I've seen many artificers, and also many people in high positions of power. However, I've never seen anyone like you. You're clearly the alliance leader of a huge force like the Sacred Heaven Alliance, but you're still pure and innocent, and you're not greedy for power. You're only obsessed with artifact forging. I think, if my life bond sword could be forged by a master like Alliance Master Xiang, it would be my honor. With a leader like this, the Sacred Heaven Alliance might not be at its peak, but the cultivators and citizens would live happy lives. Chapter 3365. Steward Wu looked at Mayan with a smile, then looked at Xiang Yunzhou. That gaze wasn't like the reverence other subordinates had when they looked at their master, but it was filled with intimacy and tolerance. Xiang Yunzhou's long eyelashes trembled slightly, and there seemed to be tears in his eyes. After a long time, he received the Cosmos sack and said through gritted teeth, "All right, I'll try again." Mu Yan had always felt that Xiang Yunzhou's character was soft and gentle. He didn't seem like a union leader, but more like a rich mortal's son. However, after witnessing his artifact forging with their own eyes, they suddenly realized that he was an expert at the peak of the sea-splitting realm. Even on the floating island, there were very few cultivators who had reached the peak of the sea-splitting realm. And Xiang Yunzhou was still a spirit cultivator. His summoned beast was a flaming moon fox. According to Steward Wu, the flaming moon fox's eyes were originally brown. However, after Mayan helped Xiang Yunzhou absorb a small amount of the golden crow's fire, it turned golden red. The flames he spat out also turned from the original orange-red to a golden red. As the spiritual fire in the furnace burned more and more fiercely, Xiang Yunzhou completely restrained the anxiety and uneasiness in his eyes, and focused all his attention on the materials. The temperature in the room rose steadily. Thick spirit energy, accompanied by the smell of burning materials, filled the entire refining room. Steward Wu, Dr. Jun, when you're halfway through refining a high-grade magic tool, a spiritual vortex will appear in the surroundings. Your cultivation level is too low, so it's dangerous for you to stay here. Why don't you wait outside? No need. Mu Yan only replied with these two words, then she attentively watched Xiang Yunzhou's every move. Strange. Why did she feel like there were similar memories and scenes in her mind? However, it was clear that she had never learned to forge weapons. And in the inheritance of the Shin musicians, there are no skills related to refining tools. But very quickly, Mu Yan throws this thought to the back of her mind. Because the spirit vortex began to appear in the crafting room. Steward Wu summoned his transcendent artifact and tried his best to protect Mu Yan. His forehead was already covered in sweat. But Mayan doesn't seem to notice this at all. Her attention was completely attracted by the 7 swords that were gradually forming in the furnace. Deep within her sea of consciousness, the 7 absolute sword was beating as if it had a heart of its own. Then, gradually, the 7 swords in the furnace also jumped up. It was like a magical artifact that was originally a dead object. In that instant, it was as if it had been bestowed with a soul. Xiang Yunzhou, who was focused on crafting, was stunned when he saw this scene. Then, his eyes lit up with joy. That's right. So that's how it is. No wonder I couldn't refine it no matter what I did. A divine weapon doesn't have a soul, how can it be considered a divine weapon? Ha ha ha, I'm really too silly. We'll definitely succeed this time. It will definitely succeed. The spirit energy inside Xiang Yunzhou's body surged crazily, pouring into the 7 swords without hesitation. At the same time, the fiery moon fox was spitting out golden red flames and hammering the 7 swords in the air with a hammer. Success, he was about to succeed. Even Mu Yan holds her breath, waiting for the final moment to come. However, at the next moment, Mayan suddenly feels a sharp pain in her knowledge sea. Immediately afterward, the entire refining room shook violently. The 7 swords that had already taken shape in the furnace seemed to have suffered some kind of impact, and cracks began to appear on their bodies. How could this be? Why did it fail? Chapter 3366. Xiang Yunzhou couldn't believe it, I already have a soul, I will succeed. His face was red from the furnace fire, and his lips were pale and cracked due to the exhaustion of spiritual power. Blood even flowed from the corner of his mouth. Steward Wu shouted worriedly, "Leader, don't continue." However, Xiang Yunzhou turned a deaf ear, and the spiritual power in his body poured into the furnace like it was free. His summoned beast, Flaming Moon Fox, also spat out flames and waved its hammer. Mu Yan suddenly heard Qi Huang's exclamation, "Oh no, I forgot. To set up 7 kills in one, you need to be at least a golden immortal. Without being a golden immortal, you can't refine 7 kills. Qi Xiao Huang." Mu Yan couldn't help but want to drag this brat out and beat him up. She even forgot that there were people around, and directly roared, "Why didn't you say earlier that you want to be a golden immortal?" Steward Wu had been tossed around by the surrounding vortex and didn't hear Mu Yan's words. But Xiang Yunzhou heard it. He paused and murmured, "Golden immortal cultivation." Yes, this is a natal sword, not an ordinary magic weapon. Such a huge amount of energy, without the corresponding cultivation, how can it be stored in the sea of consciousness? As soon as he realized this, Xiang Yunzhou felt his knees go soft, and he sat on the ground. Without the support of spiritual power, more and more cracks appeared on the 7 swords in the furnace, and faster. Xiang Yunzhou showed Mu Yan a smile that was uglier than crying. "I am so stupid, as a refiner, I didn't even think of this." Mu Yan looked at the old man in front of her, whose hair and beard were mostly burned, and her heart seemed to be blocked by something unspeakably uncomfortable. Xiang Yunzhou was still comforting her. "Miss June, don't be sad, although it didn't work this time, we have found a way. When you break through to Golden Immortal, come find me, I will definitely." "Alliance Master Xiang, please continue refining." Mu Yan suddenly spoke, interrupting him. Xiang Yunzhou was stunned. He heard the girl sitting cross-legged in front of him, and a black zither appeared in front of her. The girl raised her head, her beautiful peach blossom eyes staring at him, and her voice was resolute and disdainful. "I, now, advance. Advance. What level?" Steward Wu resisted the urge to dig his ears. He suspected that he had heard wrongly. Was it the advancement that he understood? Because the mortal cultivation realm was unable to withstand the enormous power of the 7 peerless weapons, he had to break through to the mysterious life realm in the short time he took to forge the weapon. "Are you kidding me?" Steward Wu felt that this little girl was crazy. Breaking through a large realm was described by her as if she was chopping melons and vegetables. Was this person too arrogant, or was there something wrong with his brain? Xiang Yunzhou was stunned for a while before saying, "Miss June is telling the truth." Mu Yan took out a bottle of pills and poured it into her mouth, then stuck a few talismans on her body. She then pressed her fingers on the zither and played lightly. "Whether it's real or not, won't Chief Xiang feel indignant to just give up like this? Why don't we take a gamble?" Xiang Yunzhou's eyes widened. Then, the doubt and shock in his eyes were gradually replaced by determination. A little girl who was not even 20 years old had the courage to gamble. Could it be that he, Xiang Yunzhou, could not afford to gamble? "All right. You who continue to use the pill fire, use the cloud hammer to forge, don't stop." After saying that, Xiang Yunzhou also swallowed a pill, and without hesitation, he inserted his spiritual energy into the furnace. Chapter 3367. Steward Wu stared at this scene with his mouth agape. He was speechless for a long time. Crazy. It was one thing for Dr. June to be crazy, but the Alliance leader was also crazy like this girl. There were at most 2 hours until the 7 Shen weapons were forged. Advancing from mortal cultivation to profound life realm in 2 hours. What a joke. This was not how one boasted. "Jingyan Darren, are we going to visit the Sacred Sky Alliance now?" Hearing the subordinate's question, the black-robed man frowned and said in a low voice, "Send someone to find out how Xiang Yunzhou's illness was cured. Find out what happened in the Sacred Sky Alliance in this period of time." The subordinates obeyed and dispersed. A few hours later, everyone gathered in the inn. The Sacred Sky Alliance is very tight-lipped about their alliance leader's treatment process. We only got some information after several rounds of asking. It was a female doctor with the surname June. She cured alliance leader Xiang. Yi Jingyan said, "Surname June. Do you know where she is now?" The subordinate shook his head and said, "But others say that alliance leader Xiang's illness was not cured." The Sacred Sky Alliance spread this news to calm the people. They heard Hikaizu and Beitang Feilu admit that they could not save Xiang Yunzhou. Yi Jingyan frowned in thought. When Jian's soul lamp had been extinguished, Hikaizu and Beitang Feilu could not save him. Was there really someone in this world who could cure Xiang Yunzhou, who had been corroded by the Golden Crow fire? What female doctor with the surname June? He had never heard of such a person on Floating Island. Yi Jingyan was inclined to believe that Xiang Yunzhou's illness had not been cured. The reason he made this announcement was to wait for the old ancestor of the Xiang family to return and take charge. Otherwise, the Sacred Sky Alliance would be in complete chaos. Wen Jian's death was most likely due to the backlash of the Golden Crow fire. Thinking of this, Yi Jingyan gave a dark smile. In that case, the Golden Crow fire must still be in the Sacred Sky Alliance. We will take the Golden Crow fire essence and the Ninth Sky Lightning Blade away tonight. This, if the people of the Sacred Sky Alliance find out, Yi Jingyan snorted. So what if they find out? The people of the Sacred Heaven Alliance had never been willing to listen to the Imperial Preceptor's orders. They even swaggered around just because the Heavenly Halberd needed them to repair it. With the Golden Crow fire, the Holy Sky Alliance would be useless in the future. If they dare to resist, I might as well get rid of them on behalf of the Imperial Preceptor. Wen Yan's subordinates also revealed arrogant smiles. One country and 3 alliances is the structure of the floating island that hasn't changed for hundreds of years. Today, it's time for a change. Those who resist the Imperial Tutor should all die. They were talking and laughing. Suddenly, a loud rumble came from the direction of the Sacred Heaven Alliance headquarters. The entire Spirit Wonder Mountain trembled. What happened? Sir, look. A subordinate pointed at the sky above Mount Spirit Wonder and shouted, Those are tribulation clouds. The originally clear blue sky was now covered in a thick layer of clouds. The lightning split the thick dark clouds like a spider web, emitting a colorful light. In the bustling market at the foot of Mount Spirit Wonder, everyone stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky. Is someone undergoing tribulation? No, it doesn't look like it, right? I've never seen anyone with a 7-colored tribulation cloud. Yes. The last time our sect master broke through from the mountain opening realm to the earth creation realm, there was no such commotion. Only a heaven-shattering realm cultivator would have such power, right? Chapter 3368. Yi Jingyan and the others wore solemn expressions, their eyes full of bewilderment. With such a huge commotion, could old man Xiang have returned? Rumble. A bolt of lightning as thick as a bowl descended from the sky, landing above the Sacred Heaven Alliance headquarters. The defensive formation was activated, emitting a dazzling white light. Then, countless bolts of lightning began to rumble down one after another. The entire Spirit Wonder Mountain trembled. The items placed on the street rolled to the side of the road under the shock wave. Such a huge formation. If someone is undergoing the tribulation, what kind of talent and strength would that be? But is this really a tribulation? The thunder gradually weakened, and the 7-colored lightning that split the tribulation clouds also gradually disappeared. The shaking of Mount Spirit Wonder also gradually stopped. Quick, let's go to the Sacred Heaven Alliance to take a look. Alliance Chief Xiang can't have advanced, right? Stop joking. Alliance Chief Xiang just reached the peak of sea-splitting realm a few years ago. How could he? The discussion was not over yet. Suddenly, 7 rays of silver light shot out from the Sacred Heaven Alliance headquarters, soaring into the clouds. Swish 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 swish. 7 translucent long swords lined up and slashed at the tribulation clouds. Boom! After the loud noise, the thick tribulation clouds dissipated, revealing a clear blue sky. The afternoon sun shone down. It shone on the 7 translucent long swords lined up in a row. In an instant, a dazzling 7-colored radiance bloomed, almost blinding everyone. The foot of Mount Spirit Wonder fell into a deathly silence. Then, after a moment of peace. "Oh, what did I just see? Is that a peerless divine weapon? How can there be such a beautiful sword in the world?" So, it wasn't someone undergoing the tribulation just now. Alliance Chief Xiang's treasured swords triggered the tribulation. Oh my god. I think these 7 swords are even more powerful than the Sacred Heaven Alliance's 9th Heaven Lightning Blade. Isn't that obvious? Although the 9th Heaven Lightning Blade triggered the tribulation back then, there were only 9 bolts of lightning, and they were not 7-colored at all. How many bolts of lightning were there just now? 81 bolts of lightning. Another divine weapon has been born for our floating island. Everyone's discussion entered Yi Jingyan's ears. He stared blankly at the shining sword in the sky. He was shocked, but he also felt his face hurt. Just now, he was still certain that Xiang Yunzhou was dead, and that the Sacred Heaven Alliance could be easily bullied by him. But now, not only did Xiang Yunzhou not die, he even refined such a divine weapon. "My lord." Suddenly, a subordinate's voice sounded in his ear. "These swords don't have the aura of a cultivator. If we can snatch them away." Yi Jingyan's heart skipped a beat, his eyes revealing a greedy light. "You guys immediately go and snatch those 7 swords, take the swords and leave immediately." The subordinate obeyed and flew up. Before the crowd could react, more than a dozen people had already surrounded the 7 swords. Then, the 7 of them stepped forward and grabbed 1 sword each. Yi Jingyan was excited. However, in the next moment, blood splattered everywhere. The heads of the 7 people were directly chopped off. The others turned pale with fright and retreated in fright. Then, a tall figure appeared out of thin air. With a wave of his hand, the 7 swords disappeared into his palm. Who was that? Yi Jingyan suddenly took a step forward, wanting to snatch it. The man in the sky suddenly turned his head, and a pair of ice blue eyes looked at him without a trace of emotion. Yi Jingyan's body immediately stiffened, as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. Chapter 3369. So scary. Who is this man? Just being looked at like that, he couldn't even muster up the strength to resist. Was Xiang Yunzhou's sword refined for him? Trying to snatch treasures from such a person was tantamount to seeking death. In a flash, Yi Jingyan had already made a decision. He didn't even care about the lives of his subordinates and ran for his life. Di Mingju didn't even lift his eyelids when he saw the ants running away. After collecting the 7 absolute swords, he entered the headquarters of the Sacred Heaven Alliance and landed in front of Mu Yan. Taking the 7 swords from Di Mingju's hands, Mu Yan simply couldn't bear to part with them. With a move of her divine sense, the 7 swords were taken into her sea of consciousness, surrounding the 7 absolute swords. Qi Huang said that the one separated from the Tian Imo Qin was the 7 absolute mother sword. The remaining one obtained through refining was the 7 absolute child sword. There was always only one mother sword, and it could only grow little by little through cultivation and understanding of swordsmanship and domain. Child swords, on the other hand, had to be strengthened through refining. Seeing Mu Yan's happy smile, Di Mingju reached out to wipe the dirt on her face, his eyes filled with tenderness and pampering. Very happy. Mu Yan nodded. I have become stronger. Only by constantly becoming stronger could she protect everyone, go to the Shushan continent as soon as possible, and be qualified to stand by Di Mingju's side and share life and death with him. Di Mingju chuckled. Ben Jun's face is the best. Mu Yan couldn't help but laugh. Of course, otherwise, how could you be worthy of such an excellent fiancé? The smile in Di Mingju's eyes grew stronger. Xiang Yunzhou and Steward Wu coughed softly on the side. Only then did Mu Yan come back to her senses. There were other people on the side. She coughed awkwardly and thanked Xiang Yunzhou sincerely. Xiang Yunzhou waved his hands repeatedly. Compared to Dr. Jun's great kindness to our Sacred Heaven Alliance, what is this small favor? This was not a small favor. Mu Yan remembered that in the final stage of refining, Xiang Yunzhou's spiritual power was completely overdrawn. He almost risked his lifespan to complete the sword refining. But Mu Yan didn't say much and just kept this favor in mind. She took the 2 silver centipedes sent by Steward Wu and left. Mayan had gained a lot from this trip to the Sacred Heaven Alliance. He subdued a golden crow fire essence. After breaking through to become a golden immortal, he would be at the initial stage of the profound life realm. He had obtained 7 natal child swords. He brought back Wan Yanin, a refiner with great potential. Most importantly, after the 7 absolute sword was successfully refined, she and Di Mingju had a good date in the vicinity of Mount Lingmiao for a few days. Ever since the two met and fell in love with each other, they had been apart more often than not. Even if they gathered together, there would still be many disturbances. The past few days were a rare moment of peace and tranquility. In the beautiful, silver Gorgon forest, where green willows swayed and silver leaves fluttered, Maya nestles in Di Mingju's embrace, reaching out to catch a silver leaf that falls from the treetop. Swaying gently, it was bright and translucent, as if it was condensed from moonlight. Shouldn't we go back? Mu Yan looked up and chuckled, otherwise, Xiao Bao will think that we abandoned him. As soon as he finished speaking, the bet was made. Sealed with a kiss. It was gentle and lingering. The silver leaves rustled and fell, and the wind rustled the silver Gorgon forest. Suddenly, Di Mingju pushed away the person in his arms, panting slightly. His voice was hoarse. Didn't you want to enter Tianguang ruins to fight for the first place? There shouldn't be much time left, right? It's better to go now. Chapter 3370. Mayan's eyes are beautiful, but her mind is somewhat absent-minded. She stares blankly at his words, now. The man's voice grew hoarser. Now. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself. Mayan's face reddens, and she enters the Tian Mo Qin space in a flash. Soon after, she activates the floating light jade key. In the magnificent silver Qilin forest, only Di Mingju is left. The tender expression on his face had completely disappeared. He looked at a certain spot in the void and said coldly, "Do you want to come out yourself, or do you want me to drag you out?" Ha ha ha, indeed worthy of being the polar domain's sovereign lord. We were clearly hiding so well, but you actually found us. Silhouettes began to appear one after another in the surroundings. These people were all dressed in black with a strange symbol embroidered on their chests. His face was covered with a strange mask painted with blood-colored totems. The leader had long limbs and was nearly 3 meters tall. As he walked, his head bumped into the branches and leaves that hung down, making a rustling sound. Di Mingju narrowed his eyes, long-handed race. Hey, does the emperor know? The man in the lead let out a low laugh. What an honor. I thought that no one in this world knew about the long-handed clan's existence. Although he said it was an honor, his tone was indescribably indifferent. I am Heavenly Crane, of the long-handed race. Greetings to the Emperor of the Polar Domain. While they were talking, two figures came from the horizon at lightning speed. In the blink of an eye, he's already in front of Demingju. Han Yi coldly says, "Who are you people? What do you want to do?" Sky Crane unhurriedly takes out a small black flag, sneering, "Han Yi Darren doesn't need to know who we are. Because very soon, all of you will die. It's useless even if you know. Who do you think you're talking to?" Han Yi is unable to restrain his anger. The long sword in his hand is unsheathed, and he suddenly thrusts it towards the Sky Crane. The immortal force around Mount Lingmiao seems to be attracted by a vortex, all of it converging towards the tip of Han Ye's sword. A strong wind blew in the silver dew forest, causing silver leaves to fly everywhere. A whirlwind chop suddenly chopped out. A huge crack appeared on the ground. Even the air seemed to have been sliced in half by the powerful sword energy. However, the Sky Crane, who was facing the terrifying attack, did not panic at all. He gently waved the small flag in his hand with his slender hand. Then, the flag, which was originally the size of a palm, suddenly grew bigger. It turned into a huge black flag and flew into the sky. The subordinates behind Sky Crane were not to be outdone, each of them took out a black talisman and threw it into the air. Rumble. It was as if a thundercloud had covered the whole forest. Dense black mist spread out from the banner, and in a split second, the silver Chelan forest was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers. Shadow Thunder Curse. Han Yi cries out in alarm, wanting to retreat, but his body seems to be stuck in a swamp, unable to budge. The thick black mist had already wrapped around his body. A bone-chilling coldness rose from his heart, and his hair stood on end, causing his body to tremble uncontrollably. But soon, he couldn't worry about himself anymore. This was because the black mist that pervaded the flag had also wrapped around the Shadow Demon, and there was even a tentacle that had already drilled into the Shadow Demon's heart. If one was corroded by the curse, it would be like maggots attached to the bones, pestering them for life. Although he was alive, it was more painful than death. Just like the king of medicine, Han Chuzhou. Han Yi roared, struggling desperately, "Shadow Demon, be careful." Chapter 3371. Just then, two hands stretch out of thin air, grabbing him and Ning Mei by the back of their collars, pulling them out of the entangling black fog. A tall figure stands in front of them to protect them, its whole body emitting a pale blue light. It illuminates the silver Chelan forest where one can't even see their own fingers in front of them, and also drives away the thick black fog around them. Looking at the familiar figure that always stands in front of them, the rims of Han Ye's eyes redden. They should be the ones risking their lives to protect Jun Shang. But every time, it's this person who firmly protects them. Everyone thinks that Polar Domain's Di Jun is aloof and remote, aloof and unapproachable. How many people know what this man has sacrificed for the common people of the world, and what he has shouldered? Clap, clap, clap. A burst of applause is heard. Sky Crane shakes his slender legs as he approaches, truly worthy of being Polar Domain's Di Jun. He clearly can't display even half of his strength on this floating island, and he's facing the most powerless curse, yet he can still be so calm. Di Mingju suddenly says coldly, "The rupture of the Spirit Rhinoceros Valley's boundary, was it your plan?" Sky Crane stares blankly, then immediately smiles. What is Di Jun talking about? Why can't I understand? Di Mingju doesn't pay attention to him, continuing, "The collapse of the skies, the ravaging of the poltergeist, was it also your handiwork?" The smile in Sky Crane's eyes slowly dissipates. His voice also turns cold. "It seems that no matter what I say, Di Jun already firmly believes in your own judgment." Han Yi remembers the tens of thousands of lives that were lost in the collapse of the skies, and furiously says, "Are you crazy? We're all humans, why did you destroy the boundary and attract the poltergeist? Do you know how many innocent lives have died in the hands of the poltergeist? So what?" Sky Crane's voice suddenly rises, interrupting him. Then he repeats himself, so what? Whether humans die, suffer suffering, or be consigned to eternal damnation, what does it have to do with me? I can't wait for all those hypocritical creatures to perish, and for this disgusting world to completely disappear, ha 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 ha. Han Yi looks at Sky Crane, who is laughing and gesticulating, his voice shrill and excited. His complexion turns unsightly, madman. Ingmei said coldly, "The long-handed race has a special physique. Their bones, especially their limbs, can be used as core materials to forge sacred ancestral artifacts. The souls of the long-handed race also had denser baleful qi than other humans, and were most suitable to be refined into ghost generals and ghost soldiers. More than 1,000 years ago, the only immortal king of the Long Hand clan died unexpectedly. Before the heir could be successfully cultivated, the entire Long Hand clan was exterminated by the greedy sections. All the skeletons of the Long Hand clan were refined into magic treasures, and all the souls of the Long Hand clan were refined into ghost generals, never to be reincarnated." "Enough!" Sky Crane roared, interrupting Ingmei's words. He abruptly takes off the mask on his face, a pair of slender eyes suffused with a ruthless scarlet. He fiercely glares at Di Mingju's trio. 1,000 years ago, your polar domain also had a part in slaughtering the beasts of my Long Hand clan. Di Mingju, I'm taking your dog life today. It's the Heavenly Tao's reincarnation, you deserve to die." Han Yi is so angry that he still wants to argue, but is stopped by Di Mingju. It's useless to say more. The man's handsome face reveals a cold and disdainful smile. "If you want to kill Ben Jun, you'll have to see if you have the ability." With that, Di Mingju makes a grabbing motion towards the black flag above. Rip. Chapter 3372. There's a sound like cloth tearing, making the Sky Crane jump in fright. The black banner that's contaminated with such a powerful force of resentment can't even withstand Di Mingju. Continue to increase the black curse talismans. A thick black gas gushes out of the Sky Crane's body, merging into the banner in the sky. Those underlings also take out talismans, burning them with all their might. Han Yi and Ingmei look at each other, then simultaneously unsheathe their swords. They soar up and ruthlessly hack at the banner in the sky. Rip. This time, the tearing sound is even louder. It's like the black clouds in the sky have been pulled into two halves, and the bright sunlight shines in through the gap. At the same time, a golden red sun floats out from Di Mingju's body, floating above everyone. Pest pest pest. The black-clothed men who've been illuminated by the sunlight suddenly let out mournful screams. The smell of burnt flesh and blood permeates the forest. The blazing sun is the strongest young object in the world. As long as it's born in a dark and sinister land, there's nothing that isn't afraid of the sun. The Leaf Fire 9 luminaries can burn away all the sins in the world. The Sky Crane's complexion is deathly pale, his body on the verge of collapse. The left half of his shoulder is burning with flames. This is clearly very painful, but the Sky Crane laughs lowly. Di Mingju, the priest was right, I really shouldn't have underestimated you. Since peaceful means can't kill you, then I have no choice but to use my finishing move. As soon as his voice falls, the Sky Crane's slender hand suddenly opens. In the next moment, countless black gas tumbles and surges out from his body. Ah! The Sky Crane lets out a mournful scream. When the clothes on his body, the flesh and blood wrapped around his bones come into contact with the black gas, they're corroded little by little. Even the flames that were originally burning on the sky crane's shoulder are directly swallowed up by the black gas. The situation of the other black-clothed men isn't much better than the sky crane's. They scream, but their eyes are filled with the already expected resignation and determination of their fate. The surrounding silver gorgon trees wither and fall to the ground one by one. In the blink of an eye, the fertile land under their feet turns into wasteland and quicksand. Within a few short breaths, the heaven and earth's vitality and vitality within a circumference of 10 li have been sucked clean. What is this? Is it a curse? The heavenly crane's crimson eyes unwaveringly stare at Deming-ju, its low and deep laughter turning into hysterical madness. Relying on my ability alone, of course I can't kill Polar Domain's monarch. But with this decaying curse, it's different. With my life as a sacrifice, I let this, decaying life curse, permeate every corner of the floating island. Everyone on this floating island would die. Die without a complete corpse, never to be reincarnated. And you, the Polar Domain's sovereign emperor, a hypocritical villain with a sanctimonious appearance, always talking about the people of the world. Are you abandoning the billions of lives on the floating islands and letting them die? Or will I be infected by the decaying curse and fall into hell, never to live in peace again? Ha 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 ha. Deming-ju, you don't have much time, make your choice. Floating Island, Tianguang Ruins. The 7 sword lights scattered with a whistling sound, then suddenly gathered together and slashed down. Blood splattered everywhere as the last desolate beast screamed and died. Looking at the corpses all over the ground, Mu Yen smiles. A restriction. Being hindered by a restriction only means that her strength isn't strong enough. When her strength rises to the profound life realm, when her natal sword becomes a mother with 7 children, what would a restriction count for? Between the lush foliage, a small pale face pokes out. Black glass-like eyes stare at her without blinking, filled with childish admiration and longing. Chapter 3373. However, when Mu Yen looked over, her head immediately shrank back. The branches and leaves above did not sway at all, as if there was no one hiding here. Mu Yen curled her lips and said gently, "Little Guang, wait for me. I will go to Floating Light Island to find you soon." Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her chest. The void spirit ring on his finger emitted a dark red light. Mu Yan's heart thumped, and she suddenly had a bad premonition. She left Tianguang Ruins without a second thought. Deming-ju. As soon as they leave the Tianmo Qin space, what they see isn't the beautiful silver Chilan forest, but rather a wasteland of quicksand filled with the stench of burnt decay. There were a few corpses half buried in the quicksand. There was not a single person in sight. Mu Yan's heart sinks. Panic that she had never felt before gripped her heart, causing her face to instantly turn pale. The voice that leaves her mouth carries a tremor that even she herself isn't aware of. Deming-ju. Where are you, Deming-ju? His right hand squeezed the ethereal spirit ring on his ring finger so hard that he almost crushed it. Yenyu, come out. I beg you, don't scare me. His hoarse voice sounded as if it would shatter at any moment due to extreme fear. However, the next moment, she was pulled into a familiar embrace. Don't be afraid. I'm fine. Deming-ju hugs her tightly, and gently kisses the top of her head. Don't be afraid, Yen, I'm here. In an instant, his heart that had almost jumped out of his chest returned to its original position. The bone-chilling fear was slowly dispelled by the man's warm embrace. Then, the tip of his nose smelled a faint scent of blood. Mu Yen abruptly straightens up and looks at Deming-ju's complexion. She picks up his hand to check his pulse. Di Mingju lets her do as she pleases, slightly lowering his blue eyes to look at her. The bottom of his eyes is filled with doting and deep-rooted gentleness. Yen Yen, are you afraid that I'll die? Don't worry, I'm fine. Mu Yen glared at him. You just sensed danger and deliberately sent me to the Tianguang ruins, right? Di Mingju just lowers his eyes to look at her, not saying a word. Who attacked you? From the Shushan continent. Are you hurt? Mayan disappointedly discovers that Di Mingju's cultivation is too high. In the past, before she advanced to the Immortal Emperor stage, she could barely diagnose his injuries. But now, there was nothing he could do. Di Mingju says in a low voice, the injured one is Han Yi. I've already let Ying Mei take him back to the Shushan continent. They're nothing but clowns. They know I'm on the floating island and can't use their full strength, so they want to fish in troubled waters. Mu Yen, are you really not hurt? Di Mingju chuckles, lowering his head to rub the tip of her nose. You don't believe in your husband. Otherwise, Ben Jun will take off my clothes right now and let you examine me. Mayan blushes and rolls her eyes at him. But soon he couldn't help but feel worried and suspicious. Why do these people want to fish in troubled waters when they know you're on the floating island? Will you be in danger on the floating island? Di Mingju doesn't say anything. As expected. Mayan sighs and grabs Di Mingju's hand. 10 fingers intertwine, and she somewhat complains. Why are you the aloof Di Mingju of the polar domain, and I'm just a mortal born in the Yanwu continent? If I want to marry you, I'll have to cross thousands of mountains and rivers, and cross 81 tribulations, only then can I fulfill my wish. Di Mingju's face darkens. Marry me. Does this woman know who she's talking to? You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.